Welcome back to the Night Shift, your safe space. We're talking about UFOs, UAPs, NHI disclosure, simulation theory, the underlying code of reality, and everything else. When it's getting crazy out there in a dark and crazy world that gets crazier and darker seemingly by the minute, when it appears that we may in fact be in the worst possible timeline and you're looking for an escape, I think today we may have some help for you. So welcome to the show, guys. It's great to see you. Danny Goler is our special guest today on the stream. We're going to be talking to him about his new projects, the documentary, everything that he's working on. If you're not familiar with me, his work is quite groundbreaking. In 2025, there was a big story about the telepathy tapes that became the number one podcast that year for a period of time. And as that was happening, there was this other story that was brewing in the background, and it's blowing up now. Vice just did an article on it. There's a CNN piece on it that I just saw. And Danny's going to tell us all about how he uses a refracted laser and a very special technique to see code written into the actual fabric of reality. And I apologize if my screen's a little glitchy while I talk, but we've got a funky cable. That's something we figured out a little while ago. Shout out to everybody in the chat. Great to see all of you. Thanks for being with us. Shout out to our mod team, especially Chris. How you doing, Chris? Leader of the mod squad. Great to see you. Psionic Man's here. Geraldine's here. Jeff Wheeler's here. Cosmic Serpent. Great to see all of you, Hillbilly Herb. Zoltanium. Awesome to see everyone. Mr. Justin, of course, welcome to the show. If you have audience questions, we're going to be taking some audience questions for Danny later. And first, before we get to any of that, let me introduce our panel. We have a small house today. Xander Jones, how you doing, sir?
Yeah, I'm doing good, thank you. Doing good. Very busy week. And loads of news this week as well, all of a sudden, that kind of like hit the airways in the last 2 days. So we have a lot to talk about.
There's a lot to talk about. How are things at Dreamland Motel?
Busy. So, can I have a minute?
Oh, you can have many minutes. Take a few.
You were always trying to think of ways to improve things at the Dreamland Motel. So tonight's episode, a few improvements, and also I'm making the music. And a load of people asked me for the music to be made available. I'm making it available tonight. It'll all go live at 9 p.m. So in 3 hours' time. So yeah, loads. I've been busy. I've been a busy boy, and it'll all fall out onto the internet in 3 hours' time.
Oh, that's awesome. So will it be available on all platforms where fine music is streamed?
No. So I'm only making it available on YouTube for the time being, and it will be on my Xander Jones YouTube channel, because it's not necessarily something that needs to be on the Dreamland Motel channel itself, and also I want to be able to upload other projects, music related, so it's basically just going to be on a new YouTube channel. Yeah.
Some of the Reddit guys are still asking me about when you're going to press that vinyl, or if you're going to do the cassette. They want it. They want to get on the mailing list. Be ready for that.
I think cassette.
Hell yeah, dude.
Dan Cleary's in the house, host of Others from Another Mother and Rare Form Radio, and a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu master, right?
Am I? I had no idea. That's
a fan
cool.
of cheap thrills. How are you, sir?
Man. I'm good. I'm excited for today. I've been following Danny's work from the beginning, and really excited to have this conversation.
Good to see you, man. And
yeah, you too.
Danny, you've cracked the code of reality, or you've at least broken through the veil. Danny Goler, how are you, sir?
I'm good. Thank you for having me. We definitely see something. We'll find out what that is as time goes by. Also, I didn't realize somehow I got reeled into this whole Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu world through BMAC and Zoltan. So I'm glad.
Are you a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu guy?
No, I used to do quite a few martial arts, and I did a little Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu back in the day, but I just got somehow I got connected with one of the most known people in that world, Brendan McCagran, and he just reeled me into this like entire world. And I know so many people from that world. PGF, they're the originators of PGF now, so got to hang out with Eddie Bravo quite a bit. It's awesome.
Oh, that's
that
cool.
must be
How's
fun.
that?
He's wild.
He's a wild boy. He came to see the laser. It's
Oh, he
Everybody
did?
comes to see the laser.
yeah, man. He came to see the laser. He wanted to come and see it, and we set it up and we filmed it. So it's going to be in the film as well. So, yeah. And I even did his podcast a while ago, like maybe almost a year ago. So, what belt are you, brother?
I'm not really. He's just talking shit.
Oh, okay.
So I think you live in LA. So if you see me, don't start your shit with me. I don't know what I'm doing. You'll definitely take me, no problem. So,
No. I'm not currently. I'm actually in Florida. So, but yeah.
Okay.
No. It's just great to know that there's always. And also, what is that music in the beginning, man? I need this for my run. This is
Talk
so
to this
great.
guy down here.
Dude,
Andrew
Xander,
Jones right here.
it's the shit, man. It's so
Yeah.
Thank
great.
you very much. Thank you.
Yeah.
He's the guy.
Xander is not going to talk about himself because he's too humble. And but I'll brag about him. Xander wrote the music for this show, and he was one of the first people that reached out to me when I started the channel, and he was like, "Hey, man, this is really cool. I'm trying to find some way I can contribute. What do you need anything?" And I couldn't really think of I didn't know what I was doing, so it was hard to ask for help. And he was like, "Let me just write you some music, and I think you're really going to like it." And then he comes back. It was like 48 hours later. He had written. I mean, it wasn't long. You had written the theme for this show. Would come now. The hit that everybody keeps coming back for. They come for the music. They just stick around.
He's basically your John Williams, basically.
He's his John Williams.
Ever
You're
since
true.
writing the intro, I've been trying to write one as good, and I can't.
No, that bullshit
That's
you
it.
have, dude. It's all great.
Well, and also, do you want to tell the people what you wrote for a project that's coming up in February in Austin? You want to just share that real quick?
Oh yeah. I started sort of offering out my services to other YouTube channels as well. So I've been doing some music for UAP Gerb over the last few of his episodes, and just through a strange happenstance of meeting various people, I've got Washington to thank for it, really. But eventually, I had Jesse and Chris Ramsey get in touch, and I ended up doing the sort of intro music for their live shows, which are taking place in February and I think a little bit later on in the year. But first one's in Austin on the, is it 6th?
The 5th.
5th. So it was great to
What's
be
it
able
called?
to
It's
do that.
probably nothing.
Yeah.
Probably nothing. Yeah.
Probably nothing tour.
So yeah, that's my niche, is ufology synthwave.
UFOs.
It's a good niche.
That's it.
UAP wave.
UAP wave. I like it.
To come up with a new thing for it. So, Danny, tell me what's going on. You're still in Florida. Whereabouts in Florida are you? What part?
Orlando.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
We'll be here for a couple more months, and then we're gonna keep moving then.
And you just became a dad not too long ago, right?
I have, yeah.
Oh,
Very excited.
congratulations, man.
Thank you. Yeah,
That's why you look so tired.
It
Sorry.
happens. It happens.
So tell me, you've been busy the last couple of months. There's been a flurry of activity. I saw the Vice article went up, which we can share. I think I've got it. I don't know if you have it there, Xander, but I've got it on one of my links.
That's an old one already.
This is from a year ago.
Yeah.
The CNN piece that just published.
The piece was recent. That was cool. Yeah, the same writer that wrote for Vice, he wanted to also write a piece for I think Wired, but I think I was like I told him basically I don't know if we have way more than what you already said, so felt like a repetition more than anything, so we were waiting to have a little bit more of a breakthrough there. The CNN piece was cool. It was a very nice touch. I was surprised that it wasn't like a hit piece. They just kind of, it was very lighthearted and very presented in a balanced way, which I was surprised by, to be honest. But they did a great job, and that was cool to see it going a little bit more mainstream.
And you were in this video. Well, there was this video that I saw with Chase Hughes, that was reacting to the laser experiment. And then I saw you've got a project called Veilbreak. Is that right?
Yeah, Veilbreak is basic. And by the way, that name was actually suggested by Chase. So he's a brilliant. He has a really cool mind. I really appreciate him. And Project Veilbreak is basically the technical portion of Code of Reality. So I have a nonprofit that's called Code of Reality. It's the investigative arm. It's the official project around which people from all over the world aggregate. We have scientists, we have engineers, we have cryptographers, we have brain scan experts, we have philosophers, and every day there's more people joining the team. We have VR experts. So we're slowly building this worldwide team that is around this project, and we are constantly ideating, trying to put things to the test. And actually, even I would say the movie, the people who work on the movie, Aaron Venden, Chris Paris, our producer, Aaron Venden, the director. There's a lot of tests that we've done. So me and David Carter, my business partner, he kind of took the reins in terms of the collecting the groups, so to speak, and putting it into an actual bin, into something. And the movie team actually helped us quite a bit with some of these tests because Chris is incredible at building things. So we did a bunch of tests with like eliminating the speckle, see what happens. We played with some Apple Vision Pro. We did some experiments with a microscope. There's a lot of things that we're constantly trying to work on, but we are now officially looking for a place, which will probably be in Colorado because they decriminalized the substance there or the use of it. So we're probably going to have a little center in Colorado where we're going to be showing up for work every day and actually doing the actual studying, because you can't really make progress unless you hammer it out every day. One of the things that people forget sometimes, because people kind of always expect like, okay, well, when things are cutting edge of human understanding, things sometimes take decades. Like, I don't know if you saw this recent Veritasium video about the most complicated, most important machine that humans have ever built. And if you guys haven't seen, it's a great episode. You guys should definitely check it out. It took almost 4 decades to make it work. And, the biggest companies in the world threw billions of dollars at it. And they were there every day with the smartest people on the planet working, fully funded. And it took 4 decades. So, we've been in the limelight. We've been, in people's awareness, which is, it's on us. We made it public. But this is a part that people forget. Really cutting edge science takes a long time. It doesn't take a few months, and it doesn't take a couple of years. We're working, but now we're going to be working like full time, like actually like hammering it out and understanding what we can understand about it from a more like real mainstream scientific perspective. What does it all mean? What kind of perturbations we create to the code? There are some buds of breakthroughs. Like we've started noticing patterns that we haven't noticed before.
Well, let's back it up for just a second, because for people who are unfamiliar with what you're doing, it is very unique. I don't know any other way to describe it. Can you back us up? Explain what is the Code of Reality? What is the refracted laser experiment, and what is it revealing? And then we can go forward to how you're studying that today.
Yeah. So what I discovered a few years ago is that if you project a diffracted laser on a wall and you happen to be on DMT, you will see what seems to be some kind of a self-executing code. It's some kind of a language that just kind of runs in the surface. It's extremely coherent. It has complexity. It clearly carries some kind of meaning because it's not like a happenstance. Like it's not like some square things that can kind of be some patterns that your brain is making. They're way more complex than that. They kind of look like Japanese or Hebrew, something that
intentional.
It looks very intentional, yes, and it also feels very stable. So, like that thing that you're talking about, Chase Hughes seeing it. The shock is how stable it is. It's not really doing anything in relationship to what you're doing, not what you're thinking, not what you're feeling, not how you're moving. It's just there, and that combination of stability and intentionality makes it stand out in a unique way. Way more than any other thing you might see on hallucinogenics. And so that kind of the thing that got everybody's attention. We called it the code of reality because we have to call it something. We have no idea what it is. Obviously, we don't know it's the code of reality. We know that it's some kind of a thing that looks like linguistic representation of something that is always there across individuals, always the same. We have thousands of replications all over the world. The Veilbreak project that you mentioned, if it goes to veilbreak.ai, that's just for the public. We're not selling anything there. It's a service for the public. One of our software engineers, Carmelo, our head software engineer, Carmelo, and David Carter, they created this tool, which is basically like a repo for the laser experiment. So just like you have GitHub, right? People can come in and they can leave their report completely anonymous if they want to, and that will live on the web forever, like all information. And we have an AI engine in the background kind of analyzing what's going on. Wow. So ever since then, we've been basically kind of engaged with trying to figure it out. But in order to really hammer it out, you need a lot of people, that to really pay attention to it on a daily basis and actually work on it. You have to ask the right questions, run the right tests. It needs to go through the full ringer of scientific investigation, basically.
So when this started, you kind of, how did you originally discover this process?
It's a long story. That's why there's a movie being shot about it. So the movie called The Discovery, made by Aaron Venden, and it's going to be hopefully released by June or so. We're working on distribution now.
Awesome.
The story takes place almost over 10 years. So I won't be able to recapitulate the full thing here. The general gist of it is that I had a set of experiences on DMT that was way more than I was familiar with. And I was very familiar. I've done it for years. And then I all of a sudden had this shift, and there was a different kind of experience. And that experience was as real life. So it was the being that appeared for me was just as real as a person standing in front of me. And at that point I said, okay, hold on one second. This is like if before I thought maybe there's some reality to the space, even regardless to whether I'm partaking in it, now I knew for sure that it had to be more than just my brain doing something. And then I started investigating in that direction. I started asking questions, and I was not happy with any of the answers that existed, both on the spiritual side and on the scientific side. Nobody hit the mark for me. It was like scientists were way too rigid for the obvious reasons, right? Which is fine because but also the spiritual world was just too flimsy for me. Like even with all the, well, did you ask shamans? Did you ask them? Like, no, they're buried in their own stories. Like they have their own idea of what it is. I don't think they're correct. I think there's way more going on than just thinking that these are gods. So I started asking a question somewhere in the middle. Is there something we can say with the same level of rigor of science, but also with the same level of openness that people that, approach this from a more spiritual perspective? And then I started getting more of the right vibe of what it really was, which is that.
But the technique of the technical aspect of it seems so simple, but also so very specific. This refracted laser. I know it's a complicated story and there's a lot to it, but can you try to break that down? Like how did that enter into this?
I forget whose quote this is, but real simplicity is actually very complex, right? So like identifying something simple that still carries a lot of beauty or value is very difficult. The simplicity is the indicator of the amount of work that went into it. So the answer, when you know it, it seems simple. But if you don't know it, then you're picking from an infinite space of possibilities. You don't know what it is. You have to think about it, right? Like my question was, if the space is real, how can we potentially say anything that will distinctly tell us that it is real versus mind-made? Like what is that thing that can tell us that, right? And it's not easy because when you're doing the most hallucinogenic substance known to man, basically everything you experience after falls under the category of hallucinations and therefore dismissed as, well, your brain is doing something. Right. Well, that's not a good enough of an answer, because then you're saying, here's a magic wand. If the magic wand is involved, that means it's just magic. Well, that's not an answer. So I'm thinking from first principles. Is there anything I can say that I know for sure? And I realized yes. So, for example, I knew for sure that light had to be involved because I can see it with my eyes, however it is that I'm seeing it, right? So light carries information from it to us somehow. That I knew for sure. What else do you know for sure? If the space is real, which is a big if, but if it is, it would have some laws of physics. Even if it's not our laws of physics, it would have some laws which it's operating, exhibited by the fact that it's coherent. When you're seeing it, it's not just like nonsense and craziness. It has some coherence to it. So then it behaves a certain way. What are those behavioral regularities that we want to look for? And if it is the case that it's real, it would have its own geometry, which you can describe mathematically. It would have a topology, which you can describe mathematically. It would have a boundary, because sometimes we see it, sometimes we don't. All of these things I just mentioned, we know for sure, right? If it has to adhere to these criteria. And then I said, okay, so where's that boundary? Where's that boundary? Is there a place where we can all see the same thing? Is there a place where we all enter from the same point? And the answer wasn't very forthcoming. It took me years to figure it out. But it was a long process of both kind of like wild thought experiments to thinking about very specific things we know already work. Like, for example, quantum computers are a real thing. We know they work. And they require, in order to work, basically controlling coherence and decoherence. So you have controlled coherence that you kind of hold in place, and then you allow decoherence to occur, which is when particles basically become part of one world line or part of the wave function collapse, depending what model you want to be looking through. And that property is not theoretical at that point. If it's just theoretical, quantum computers wouldn't work. To anybody who doesn't know, simply, even though it's way more complex than that, you can explain quantum computers in terms of lateral computation. So they basically compute across the many worlds, and you literally, well, depending who you ask, but if you ask some of the people who were involved in developing equations that allowed quantum computers, like David Deutsch, he would tell you 100% what is actually happening is that the many were real. Like, otherwise you wouldn't be able to do this computation, because you literally...
So the computer is able to pull information from multiple parallel realities simultaneously and assemble a coherent...
Yep. So that's the only way to explain, well, again, depending...
So am I understanding correctly? You started with the most basic, clean assumption you could work with, and then you started working backwards from that, step by step, until you got to this system, which basically lets, for people who aren't familiar with this, you shine this refracted laser on a wall or on a surface. Does it have to be a wall? Can it be any surface?
Diffracted, yeah. So let me just finish that thought real quick, so
Okay.
it doesn't confuse people why it's connected. So when I thought about quantum computers, what I thought, okay, well, if light decoheres, so if light becomes part of this world line, the instance that it does, there's one bit of information being transferred. So here's at least one instance of communication between the worlds, right? And then I thought, okay, well, what if we can utilize the scattering of light somehow, if these are parallel worlds between us and the DMT world, to actually send a signal? And then the second I thought that, a lot of kind of interesting thoughts all of a sudden became available to me. And that took a few more years of kind of thinking about it with myself. But eventually I realized there has to be something with coherent light, with lasers, and specifically with diffraction. So not refraction, but diffraction. So there has to be something and diffraction is simply when light basically bounces off of something, right? But in the case of a diffracted lens, it's also designed to match the wavelength of the light that is being shown through it. So if you shine 650 nanometer diffracted laser, then the diffracted lens has to be designed, the slits have to be designed to be at a distance that matches the geometry of 650 nanometers, and so it goes. If it's 540, you have to change the lens, right? Because that gives you that coherent band of light, so to speak. And what's interesting is that if you just take a laser pointer, and at this point I'm very careful with what I'm saying, because now we're going to be really testing all of this like very deeply. But the last few times I tried, when you just take a regular laser pointer and you blow it up, like if you go really far, so now you have this big circle, you don't see the code, which is strange, because technically, the second the light hits the wall, that's also a form of diffraction.
Okay, well, I want to stay. I want to come back to this because, but I feel like we're in the advanced level explanation of what's going on, and we're not explaining to people what exactly is significant about this for people who are fresh to this idea. You are putting this laser beam on a wall, and I want to show this clip of Chase Hughes reacting to it because it says more than I could describe. I think it says everything. The way that I became aware of you was watching reaction videos, just all these different people reacting. They're all doing the same thing and seeing consistent characters through this experience, right? Through this beam. Has anyone cataloged what they're seeing? I mean, is there any written catalog of what these things look like, or
We have, yes.
can we show? Do you have anything that we can show of what it looks like?
Sure. Let me just pull it up in a way that I can maybe. Can I share a screen here?
Should be.
Yeah,
able.
sure, yeah.
Or I can just send it to you.
Yeah, either way.
Hold on, let me pull it up.
It's really interesting work. It's really, really fascinating.
Yeah, there's literally nobody else doing this right now.
Yeah.
It reminds me of like there's a community called Liminal Spaces on Reddit and in Instagram, and I think Justin and I were talking about it yesterday. People who find like this portal into a weird side world that's sort of not supposed to be there and it doesn't make sense. It feels like that's kind of what you've done. You found like a glitch. There's like a hole in the matrix, and you found out how to see through it. And people are like, "What?" It's very strange.
Yeah, I guess you can think. I guess you can think of it like here. I'm just sending you a little video MOV via email. That'll be. Then you
In
can
the
just show it.
meantime, maybe yeah, I have the Chase Hughes video pulled up. It would be interesting
Well,
to maybe just watch it and maybe you guide us through what the sort of things he's saying.
sure.
Perhaps.
And also, I just emailed it to you.
Sure, thank you. Let's so I'll play this video, and yeah, feel free to like jump in and just sort of describe what's going on, because for somebody who's never taken DMT, there'll be some things that he says that I just can't relate to at all.
Sure. This is a square. So Chase is welcome to the family.
It's good to be here. This is so bizarre. So initially I thought it would be lots of just clean, equally, perfectly spaced lines of code, like the way that I was imagining it.
Yeah.
And then looking at it, even I can see it now, some. And none of it makes any sense. And if it was a hallucination, it would move.
When you move, you mean?
So is he on a come down right now? He's coming down from it.
So DMT is not an on-off thing. It's degrees, right? And I remember back in the day, I also used to think that like the second you smoke it, you're like out. It's not how it works. You need to smoke quite a bit actually to like be fully out. So as long as you're aware of your environment, you're, for all intents and purposes, you can communicate, you can speak, and then it's just a level of how much of what DMT is offering is in front of you, but you can still like speak and be coherent and everything. So I don't know exactly what stage he's on, but obviously he's not in hyperspace. He can talk to us.
Well, how long since he smoked it?
I would say at this point, like 10 minutes in, maybe 15 minutes in. So you
Okay,
can see it. The code, you don't have to have that much. Okay, so let me just be sensitive to your question before you continue playing. Let me cater for a second to people who've never done it, maybe who never will do it. So just so you understand, DMT already by itself, the reason it stands out and why it's so known, even among people who've never done it, is because it really doesn't feel like you're high. Okay, that without the laser, without anything, DMT by itself is so weird. Your body makes it, so that part is true. Your lungs make it, your liver makes it, some portion of your brain make it, which is already raising a lot of questions, right? And then when you smoke more of it, it doesn't, like when you drink alcohol, smoke weed, even do mushrooms, there's always this feeling like you're high. There's something either moving to the side or being taken away, or there's some kind of a veil, like when you smoke weed, things are a little bit more kind of like cloudy, right? When When you smoke alcohol, you're more kind of like dialed into the moment, but everything else kind of goes away. Something changes about who you are, about your perception. With DMT, it doesn't feel that way. So content-wise, everything changes to things that you couldn't even fathom or imagine before. But your psychology and everything that you consider yourself to be doesn't change. That's the weird part about it. It feels like you're less high. Like this was the high, and now you're going clearer. That's the weird part about DMT. That's why it's justified to say things feel more real than real, so to speak. And when you come back from the really crazy part of it, or you never went, you just smoked not that much, you will see edge detection go up. So things become HD in reality itself. And within that, if you look at the laser, you all of a sudden see where before you just saw the speckle, which is just that shiny stuff you see when you project a laser on a wall. Instead of that, all of a sudden, within that, you start seeing these characters, and they're running around along different axes. They rotate, they move along these columns, and they also switch in one spot. And what you just heard here, because technically you do see them moving, they're doing their own thing, but they're not moving in relationship to you. It's doing a thing in relationship to what you're doing. That's why I'm asking for clarification from Chase, because he's saying, and they're not moving. And I said, whatever I said, but I was basically asking, wait, you mean like not moving at all? Or because they are moving. And I did notice that when people don't have enough DMT, they see them kind of frozen. But when there's enough DMT, they're also moving. But again, they're doing their own thing. So that's this part right here.
Okay, let's play more.
Like when you move, it will move with you is what you mean.
Yeah. Or it would morph, is what I mean. It could morph over time. And these are like object permanent. And I can see stuff in that direction, and I can move this way, and I can see in that direction. Like I'm looking beyond this little thing right here. And it's just weird. And it's even weirder that we can see it with our eye, you know? There's no microscope here. There's no large hadron collider. We could just like shine a laser on a wall, and there's some.
But you have to bring your consciousness to a different state.
Yeah.
Which actually tells you something very big about what consciousness is. There's a continuum there.
Yeah.
It's not just what it is. There's like there's gradation of it.
Yeah, you get to that state, and it's just.
I think you nailed it with saying that it's weird. Like there's something very bizarre about it. It's like you don't expect to ever see this in your lifetime.
Yeah.
It's not something you ever expect to happen to you.
Yeah. And it's not, your brain isn't ready for it. And like when I saw it, the first 10 seconds is, this is a suggestion. I've gotten primed to see this stuff. And then I saw the same characters that you saw. Identical characters.
But it's not just the content. Would you agree that there's something?
So okay, sorry. So he saw the same characters that. Had you shown him the characters that you've seen before he tried it, or?
There's a few things that we've exchanged notes about, but this part that I'm saying right now will be key, because for me, and this is when I just sent you an email with like the characters.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm alone, and this is going to surprise a lot of people right now. I don't think the characters matter at all. So everybody wants to decode the thing. And I'm saying you're way ahead of yourself. You can't decode something that you don't know what it is. Because the context of symbols is always in relationship to everything else that it's doing and what it is. When you decode old human language, right, one that we don't know about, you already have a lot of information about it just by the sheer fact that you know it's a human language. There's a lot of regularities to human language that we already know about. Zipf's law, there's all kinds of syntax and how people make languages. But in the case of this, we don't know the first thing about it. We don't know its language. We don't know its code. We just see these weird symbols running around in some coherent manner. So the first thing that I would say that needs to be done we need to see if there's any handle, if there's any either perturbation to the code itself or to its observation that we can induce. Because the second we can do that, even slightly, one that everybody can agree on, yeah? So like not for one person, but like if I can do something that everybody agrees they see the same change when I do that thing, then you can start asking questions about the language. Because you can say, okay, do any of the characters change when we do this little whatever that is? Like if I turn on a very powerful
is it
magnet.
Objectively
But
real?
not just that, yes, but also what is the representation? What does it mean when these characters are present? Are they different when this effect is present? And now you can start asking questions, because now you're just guessing into infinity. And the truth is that even what I sent you is a consolidation of many, many, many reports that kind of trying to like remember and then write it down. You're not really tracing them, right? We don't know that it's exactly what these.
Do you have it, Xander? Did you get that email? Maybe we can share that screen. And I have a question from our audience that's relevant to this, and let me just share that question really quick. This is from Cole the Slaw wants to know: have you tried viewing the laser on different surfaces besides walls like mirrors or water? If so, did you see the same code?
Yeah. So the code, great question. So the code seems to be the same no matter what. We did it on many, many different surfaces. We did it under many different conditions. Conditions of trying to change somebody's perception with like tones and music and binaural beats and moods. Some people ask us about temperature. We never really tested it like changing the temperature dramatically, which would be a cool test to do. But the code doesn't seem to be the kind of thing that would even be influenced by these things. It just kind of seemed to be like fundamentally there, embedded on its own side. And it's like you're shining light at it. So if you change the frequency of the light, it doesn't matter. So different colors don't matter. We even did it in real time with this really powerful laser that can also change in real time the frequency. And same thing. It's just kind of the colors change, but the code seems to be the same.
When you add more power to the laser, is there a change in how? And do you see more or less information? Is it higher or lower resolution? Is there any change whatsoever?
Yeah, well, we never really had a laser that can increase in power at the same time. But I would imagine that if you put more light on it, you will see just it more coherently.
Sharper images.
Sharper images, but also you might get to a diminishing return point where there's too much light and it just I don't know what people ask with the mirror. A few people ask this, but I don't quite understand that question. You're just gonna get the laser in your eyeball. Like I don't know I don't understand what.
Well, I guess they're saying is if it's a maybe this is what they're saying. It's just speculating here, but if it's a glitch in like the way the simulation works. Maybe the glitch would show up if you shined it on a mirror. It would look like a weird, I don't know. It wouldn't do so. It would do something unexpected, or you would see information. I don't know.
But again,
it just has a weird outlier.
Right, but if you shine a laser in a mirror, you're just gonna get the laser in your eyeball again. So like you're not gonna see anything aside from an eye doctor.
Right, but if you shine it on a wall at an angle, you're just gonna see a laser on a wall, right? If you shine it on a table.
So we're saying put it in the mirror and then on another wall. Is that what you mean?
The mirror is a surface, just like a wall is a surface. It's
no,
a
I know, but
but
where are we looking for the code? Are we looking for the code
on the mirror? I believe on the mirror.
On the mirror.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we tried it with the mirror and then looking at it on the wall, and it just looks the same. But I would not want to shine a laser directly at the thing. It like you just see a reflection of you. That's why I'm just like.
I just wonder if you had one of those super lasers.
Hold on. Just imagine this for a second, right? You're in front of a mirror. And you forget about a laser. You shine a flashlight, right? You just see an image of yourself with a flashlight. That's it. Like you don't get to. And also,
if you're straight on,
also from the side.
Well, I mean, if you're at the side, you bounce it at an angle. I mean, it's.
But you won't see the bouncing. You will just see the image of it because your brain will consolidate the image. So, but the truth is that I don't even think it's a glitch. So, like, I think if it was first of all, they know we're doing this. So, like, whatever you want to call them, the simulators, they're obviously very aware of what's going on. This is part of more of an understanding process than a glitch. If it was a secret, whatever this is, then they could just made it into wiggles. Like they don't need to make it a coherent language. Why would it be discoverable to anyone? Right?
I guess I'm thinking in terms of like if we were characters in a simulation and we just figured out how to see outside the simulation, and we're all like having the conversation. Well, what did you see? Well, it looked, I don't know, it looked like this, and you show a picture of what. By the way, for people in our chat, if you recognize those characters, or if they look familiar to you, or if you've seen anything like it in UFO lore, I'd be curious to know. Let us know in the chat.
A lot of people ask me if, in the UFO context, they always ask me if it's kind of the thing that we saw on the Boogosphere or some other Danny Shieb, things that he was talking about. Like, people always ask me in the context of this. And the closest thing that I ever found that when I looked at it, I said, okay, that's kind of like that, is that Carrot report. As far as I know, that was a fake, right? So to me, I don't know, you guys would know better. That's what I hear reported from people. In any case, that's the closest that I've ever seen, and that is, I think Gallimore said that he thinks it's basically like reverse Japanese characters. But the truth is, I don't think it's any language we've ever seen.
Simulators.
Japan is simulating everybody.
Japan, they did it. Those
After
bastards.
the Second World War, they just went to work to simulate the world. It's like, that's how we're going to control you. It's really funny because originally people said, well, isn't it just might be something in the manufacturer? Like you're just seeing something from the inside of the laser, which would be really cool. Oh, no. Hey, that's not a crazy idea.
Wow, Craftsman.
That's not a crazy idea.
Made in Japan.
Yeah. But
the lens.
But the thing is that when you move the light, it's not really moving with the light. So the light is moving across it. Right. So, by the way, to be super clear, and it doesn't nullify anything. You can still, there's a lot of ways in which this can still be some kind of you seeing how your mind projects, which is actually even more plausible in terms of like an explanation. But then you would have to grapple with the fact that then it has this holographic component, because it's almost like it has this like one contains the all kind of component. Like it feels like it hovers in some kind of a subspace, and you are moving in relationship to it, and the light is too, which still can be the case if it's in your projection. You have to kind of think about how the brain is actually achieving this.
When you say the subspace kind of area, when I think of a psychedelic subspace, I'm thinking of something that looks like an Alex Gray painting, like a very psychedelic, lots of data and color and things. Are you describing something like that, or are you talking about something different?
No, I mean something a little bit different. So it's almost like it's hard to describe if you've never seen it. But let's say if you're in a moving train, and you go to the end of one of the carts and you open the door while it's moving, right? The other cart, in relationship to you, it does this like wiggle, right? Because we're both moving in random ways in relationship to another, right? So you see the wall of the other cart like dancing in front of you, like this, right?
Yeah.
So imagine that there's a cart within the wall. It's not quite dancing like that, but it has this component of something else in relationship to you that also is doing a thing, but it's not in the wall. It's like the wall is only there to bounce enough light off of from one direction for you to see it, but it's not in the wall. It's in some kind of a subspace that isn't the wall. It's almost like a fourth directional thing. In fact, one of my more extravagant theories is that this is a three-dimensional slice of a four-dimensional object that we're seeing that is kind of rotating. That's why it does this confusing thing that people can't really understand.
Danny, can I ask you, when you're looking at it and you see two of these images side by side, are they doing their own independent thing, or are they kind of moving together?
Define two images, two different images.
Two symbols. So let's say you see a square symbol and like a curve symbol, and they're side by side. Are they doing the cart thing together, or are they doing independent?
Great question. Regions doing different things. The whole space is kind of wiggling together, but then there's also all the things that all of the regions are doing separately. So it's a field of buckyballs, so like these sucker balls looking things. Mm-hmm. That's what the code makes. And they rotate around that. And they rotate along these, they all sit on these enormous columns that are all moving back and forth. And also each character is doing its own thing in its own. So it switches just like in the old airports, that when they would change the signs or like that. Exactly. And all of it is happening at once. And there's millions of them.
And it's distinctly mechanical. It feels mechanical to you, or does it's
combined between a mechanical and an organic thing. A lot of people reported looking like almost like a tissue of some sort. Like but the thing about it is that it's super coherent. So how there's that part is the most difficult to communicate because hallucinations can already be convincing. So why is this in particular extra convincing? Well, some of it is the fact that it's simpler than just the craziness that you can experience on DMT, even though it is presents itself as very coherent. Here you just have one mechanism that has all kinds of degrees of freedom. It's always the same. It never changes in essence, not across people, not across times, not across surfaces, not across locations. It makes no difference whatsoever. And so it allows itself to be studied a little bit more, with ease, because it doesn't have all these moving parameters. And also it has enough of this distinctness. One of the ways that I found to communicate this now when I give talks about it is that I say, okay, if I show you a bunch of dots, just like dots in a row, is this language? And obviously people say, well, no. Okay, great. Now I show you a bunch of lines. Is this language? And they say usually no. So you keep going up the complexity of each thing, right? And then there's going to be a place where people are going to say, maybe? But they're not sure, right? Like, for example, the Alison Gray characters falls within that category of maybe. Because you can say maybe it's some ancient language or whatever, but it can also seem like just your brain consolidating lines, really. Like it's kind of square and bulky. But then when you get to a certain level of complexity, like Japanese letters, Chinese letters, then people will undoubtedly say, okay, yes, that is good. Why? Because there's enough intention, there's enough complexity there that seems not random, right? But then if you keep pushing it up, so you make it extra complex, like every character has 100 lines, they're all like super tiny, then it breaks apart. People say, okay, that's not language. Why? Well, there's too much information.
It's too dense.
Too dense, exactly. Great. What does that mean? That means there's some kind of a sweet spot where meaning can be instantiated properly without too much overwhelming the system, right? And the code not only has that, it has this super clarity to it. It's not just a vagueness that is unfolding in front of you. It's always what it is, and with this level of solidity to it.
I've got another audience question and this is relevant to this point as well, and I want to jump to that in just a second. But before I do, just real quick reminder to everybody watching, do us a favor, hit that like button if you haven't already. We've got, how many people are we up to in here? I think we were up to almost 400, and we've got 120 likes. We're going to try to break 1,000 viewers on this stream today, guys. So if you can, hit that like button. Let's see how many we can get to. I want to hit 1,000 before the end of the show. Now, this audience question is from Grelch. Grelch says, has the experiment been tried on subjects who had no idea what they were supposed to be seeing? In other words, can the pre-suggestion that there will be a code you'll see lead the subject to see a code?
So first of all, answer the second part of the question. Of course, yes. Suggestion can play a big role. The answer to the first part of the question is also yes. Yes, we have shown it to people who told them nothing, and not only they reported every single element if they fully see the code. In fact, I did more than that. A few times I told people to look for something else. So like I told them, I forget what it was, but misdirection basically. And still they're like, oh, I didn't see what you said, but I saw these Chinese looking
That's
characters.
Insane, man.
Yeah.
That's so crazy.
No, it's more than that. I'll tell you, there was one case that really stood out, and I was like, oh my God, this is gold. We had a researcher from Berkeley who came. So we were doing some brain scans with Stuart Hameroff, the guy who co-wrote the paper with Penrose, the OR paper with the microtubules, and we did some brain scan tests with him because he's kind of known, and even though he is to many scientists like a contentious character, many people really admire him, and she was super stoked to be there, to be with Stuart Hameroff doing the thing. So we did the brain scan thing, and then I asked her, "Would you like to do the laser?" We were doing it right after. And she said, what's the laser? So I looked at John. Shout out to John Chavez from the MTX, who was organizing this thing. And I said, wait, you didn't tell her anything about the laser? And he said, no. I said, oh. I was like, perfect. So I was like, so that she knew nothing about me, who I am, what we're doing, nothing. He's a researcher.
We just like, get on the table and shut up. Here comes the laser.
So no, she's like, she goes to the thing, and then, we're filming this for the film. And first of all, obviously she was shocked. And then she's like, what is this? And we're like, well, what do you see? And then it's almost like I handed her a script. She like reported everything, the buckyballs, the characters, like every single thing with that level of shock to people that you see the reaction videos.
Xander, you have to skip ahead a little bit in this Chase Hughes thing because towards the end, there's the just before the end, like the last 2 minutes, he gets even into more detail about this stuff. It's so relevant to what you're saying, Danny. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but
No, please.
it's great.
Bit more, and then like someone's whisper in your ear that, oh, imagine that what if you could see characters in there, and just kind of suggesting these things to you. There's none of that happening, and I'm a pretty skeptical dude, and this is 100% easy to do. You don't need a microscope, you don't need an MRI, you don't need a research grant, you don't need $1 million to perform this thing, and there's no hardcore parameters. Like, you throw it on a tripod and it's on a wall beside you. Like, there's nothing fancy about this. And this can be duplicated so easily. For me to profess that I know what the F is going on right there,
No,
I have none. I have no idea. So if you're watching this, I'm a scientist. No idea what that is. But it is written in there. There's 100%. There's code inside of that. And it's not Japanese. It's not English. It's not ones and zeros like I thought it would be, like binary code. It's something else, and it's there. And what's amazing is that it doesn't matter if you move the laser. So like if I'm looking at that map over there, and I'm looking at a hill on that map, and somebody shines a flashlight on that map, you can still see the map. You're just seeing different pieces of the map. And that's exactly what it's like. So when Danny was moving this laser up and down, I was just seeing higher code that was up here and then code down here, just like someone shining a flashlight on it. So it was
So cool.
object permanent. And it was locked in place of like where it is for the most part. There were a few moving parts, some little things that looked like they were like gears, almost like a gear that you would see inside of maybe a cell or something like that. So you know what this reminds me of? The movie Contact, where like there's this weird signal, and eventually if you evolve to a place where you can put this like circus ride thing together with a steel ball with a human in it, then it allows you to transport. But this is like something like, if we kind of are able to figure out what the hell this is, there may be some formulaic structure to it that we can start predicting.
Do you think you have enough in you to do a part of that speech from
We can cut it there.
from Contact?
That's the context.
'Cause
He
you
does a
look
good
exact-
job of it too.
Yeah, he really. I just noticed that he really looks like her dad in the movie.
Oh, yeah.
Did he
That
really
guy.
remember the speech, or did
'Cause, he got it before because he looks a lot like him. So it's like
he does look like that guy? He did. So tell me, did he flew you out? I saw on video he said he flew you out there
Yeah.
because he wanted to see if it was legit.
yeah,
And you demoed it, and that's his reaction.
that's his reaction. Yes.
I wanted to
he's-
ask about
Yeah, go ahead.
reactions if I could. I've seen a lot of your clips that you've posted, and people seem to have an overwhelmingly positive experience where they get filled with wonder and they're very interested. Have you had anyone kind of like freak out or have a negative experience after it?
Not freak out, but definitely had people who, which also made me kind of understand the role of responsibility here, which is like people said, "Oh, I don't know if I needed to know that," and they didn't realize that either. And
It challenges you.
there's one case that really stands out. There was a husband and a wife. They really wanted to see it. It was through mutual friends, and they saw it. And the wife had like this incredibly, just kind of like out there in the clouds, like wow, just like just. And the husband sits there. I look back and I see him, and he's just like. And I'm like, "Are you okay? Like, is everything okay?" He's like, "Oh no, that was beautiful." And I go like, "But are you fine?" And he's like, "This is the naked truth, isn't it?" And I go like, "Yep." So he's like, So it's like there's a certain ontological shock that comes with that, and I always say, we all have different levels of novelty that we're comfortable with. and some people are not ready for a certain level of novelty. Like they're actually very comfortable where they are. And that goes to the whole question of getting out of the simulation. One thing to understand is that the situation we're in, the one that I'm professing that we're in, it's not like in the movie. Like you're not in a prison. This is here actually for you. It's so you don't fly into infinity of madness. Like it's actually it's here. The structure is here for you, not to contain you. So I'm not sure where people think they're going to be breaking free to, but there's no outside of the simulation, because the word simulation, this is where the word simulation starts kind of breaking apart a little bit, because in the context of how we use the word, usually we always mimic something else. So it implies that whatever is simulated is fake, right? But in the context of the real situation, what is actually happening is that what is simulated are the laws of physics. So you're in a fully contained world and you're a conscious being in it. So the world at large, outside of our universe, the bigger world, is computational, not the other way around. Computation is not a subset of what the real thing is. What we call real is a subset of what computational is. So in that regard, simulation just means a parallel world. So what you're really saying, you want to break out of the universe, which is, what are we talking about? So it's not like you're trying to get out. What this allows us to do is to understand the larger situation and then potentially fold it into everything else that we can do here. So maybe we can play with new laws of physics. Who knows eventually, right? But the idea isn't to break free. The idea is to understand and then make it part of our ontological perspective as a species, basically.
Interesting. Yeah, I think it was you. It was either you at some point or someone you were showing the experiment to said that when you're looking into it, you're peeking through to our creator or peeking through to something, right? To something that is possibly involved in us. So you're kind of saying that maybe that place, whatever we're seeing, that's not for us. It's just a place that's not for us.
Well, no, it's not that it's not for us.
We can't go to it.
It's not designed for you to exist in this form, right?
Right.
But you can know about it clearly because it's allowed. Otherwise, you wouldn't know about it. I see it more like, this is a metaphor that I've been using recently because I think it really drives the point home. Imagine there were these creatures in the forest that only live on the ground, and we don't even have the neck muscles to look up. So we just kind of like everything we know is right here, right? And we can maybe look to the side a little bit, kind of, and then one day somebody was born with some neck muscles to look up, and they go up and they go like, whoa, and then they look back down and say, yo, there's a thing up there, and somebody says, what does that mean? What do you mean by up there? What is that? And they go like, well, like look like this, and they go like, and they can't, and they're like, what do you mean? So, anyways, you get the picture, right? And then the whole conversation begins with like, is what we see up there a place we're supposed to just because we can be aware of it, escape to, or is this not relevant? No, it's part of also whatever's up the trees is real and it's also happening. But if you don't have the neck muscles to look up and you're fine as a creature and you survive right here, then it's fine. Now, if you can develop the neck muscles and maybe eventually also develop the right tools to climb the trees, wonderful. But then you have to get there. Like there needs to be a process by which this is happening. And the one thing that humans excel at is actually universal thought. So we're different than other animals in that we have this ability to extract information from things that we've never seen before, right? And we can think about more universal things, even though we don't necessarily currently have the tools to engage with them. But that tool makes us universal players versus local players. We're just very early on in that stage of the game, but we're definitely part of that. One thing that I'm always mentioning in this context now, because I think it's actually kind of what's going on. I don't know if you know this, but they observed some monkeys now entering their age. Which is that there you go. So
Hunting
now,
with spears. Yep.
Exactly. So now I might have even mentioned this in the last time we spoke, but I think it's important to repeat if people never heard this before. So if we keep evolving as humans, right, and we live alongside them, like we're obviously in the same environment, So if we're going to start exploring other stars and galaxies and build enormous machines above the Earth and things like this, well, we will be, even though they might start, evolving more and more and understand things that are a little bit more deeper than just kind of the immediate environment interaction, we're going to start disturbing them more and more because they will be capable of deeper suffering because their psychology is evolving, but also they can't possibly fathom what is going on up there, right? So now we have the ethical responsibility, if we can, to make ourselves the least noticeable to them as possible until they evolve enough to start to understand. That's kind of an ethical responsibility of an evolving species. So I think that we are the monkeys. They, whomever the next octave up is, are so much more evolved that they're disturbing our peace. So they have to kind of make themselves in the background and not discoverable to us until the moment comes where our evolution takes us high enough where we start to actually interact with the trees and we start to interact with some of the subspaces where they're in. And now they can't hamper our evolution. That's not allowed. But what they can have is some protocol by which they inform us gently as we progress with our understanding, and they slowly letting us know. It's like, okay, this is what's going on. You're not alone. All of these things. And I would not be surprised if the whole, everything that this show is about, UAPs and all that stuff, they are gentle and not so gentle attempts of different facets of these more evolved species to let us know gently, kind of inject themselves into the cultural zeitgeist and our ideas, and then through our movies. So there's some gestation period. We sit with that for decades, maybe a century, and we kind of like get acclimated to these ideas. And eventually, when the real thing happens, even though it will still be shocking, there's no question about that, it will be a way smaller shock.
You're softened. Yeah.
You're softened.
Are you
exactly.
saying like we have a lot of people in our audience, and Dan, I know you and I have talked about like there's this sort of range of where you fall on the understanding scale of what we're actually dealing with vis-a-vis all the high strangeness. And it's like 30 years ago, flying saucers and aliens came from another planet, and then they came here. Now we're kind of we were in the green room just before we went live, and we were talking about Jimmy Carter getting this briefing, this thing that Eric Davis was talking about recently, and how he was discovered after the briefing. How did you describe it? How did Eric Davis describe it?
So there's the classic tale of Carter sort of like breaking down in tears after he has this classified briefing that was contained inside a conventional briefing that was unrelated. The story goes that he was in tears, but the reality is he was sort of sat at the Resolute desk with his head in his hands looking down like that, just trying to process things. And Davis said that's just how Jimmy Carter prays.
This is after getting the presidential UFO briefing.
Yes.
Yeah.
I just wonder, it got me thinking, and this conversation's got me thinking, like with the indigestible truth, as Jim Semivan is fond of saying, like the thing that is just so hard for people to just come out and say, what if it is? Yeah, we're inside of a simulation and we know that there's an outside and there are people an octave above us, to use your term, Danny, that have the ability to come into this level. And we are aware of them and they're aware of us. And sometimes when they come through here, they have to use hardware to get here. So sometimes that gets left behind, and maybe that's a piece of this puzzle. Or do you see them, Danny, as distinctly separate things, this whole UFO alien thing?
Separate thing than what? What I'm describing?
What you're working on with Project Veilbreak and Reality Code.
No, I think eventually it's all the things we don't know about, but they're real, right? So the only question becomes what level they're coming from. And there's many, many levels. And I think there's the aliens that are still very much physical, but they're just still they fall under the same contract that is kind of dictated from above. There you go. That basically says, do not make yourself, visible if you can. And I think what really is happening is that the rest of everything that is out there. So the question is, where are they? The answer is everywhere. It's just that they're cloaked from us. So I think they are actually dark matter. I think that they are made out of dark matter, and that it's just we don't have the way to perceive that band of matter on purpose, basically.
Are you? How do you feel about Donald Hoffman's whole headset description of?
Absolutely. I think he's right on the money.
So for people, Donald Hoffman has this idea of like reality as a headset, because if you could really experience full blast reality, it would just explode your mind. You couldn't process it. Too much data. So instead, we get this meat suit that kind of like squashes our perception down to a reasonable, manageable level. But DMT loosens that headset a little bit.
Yeah.
Right?
So basically, imagine it basically expands how much of
Like
the
you can
real
pull the
environment
goggles
you
out
see.
and kind of
Yeah,
see
you
out
go-
the edge.
Yep, exactly. You see more of what reality really is.
In a
That's
way,
so-
it makes sense for efficiency's sake as well, because processing that amount of data is just simply energy hungry at the end of the day. If we can get by on seeing a tiny sliver and we can still propagate and pass on our genes, then that's exactly how we would evolve.
Yeah, and just to clarify what Donald Hoffman's point actually is that he started running simulations by simulating different agents in any environment, and he wanted to see where is that line where how much of their actual the real underpinnings of their environment they become aware of, that all of a sudden they become incapable of competing with all the other agents that are only aware of reward functions, which is basically what you're saying. So like if we are these creatures in the forest and we're fine, we're existing as a species, and we're cool with just hunting so yeah, but once in a while we're snatched by one of the birds of prey, but I mean, we still survive as a species, which is enough, right? But then when we start looking up, somebody will be like, oh, I understand what these things are now. There's these flying things, and they come and they take us. Okay, but then if you're not designed as a species to do this, then the amount of information you're now absorbing of like reading the trees, you forget to eat, or you forget to like actually engage with what you need to do to survive as a unit. However, this little example breaks down with humans. We are actually different. We've entered the more universal family, and it's exhibited by the fact that we are capable of pressing against our environment faster than it can press against our genes. So usually animals are kind of like contained within what they're designed, the environments they're designed to survive in, right? Humans are not like that. We can make the environment fit our need, which is a much more universal function. And the fact that we can, go to other rocks and things like this. So we already start playing with another kind of ability, but we are at the very beginning of it. We're not the best at it yet, obviously. So that's why it's such a struggle, and it's complicated by the fact that, and this is just an uncomfortable fact, not all humans are the same. So there's just certain people. I don't want to take us too far afield, but I think it's an important one to mention. Andres Gomez was an incredible and brilliant mind. He was on my podcast recently, and if I don't know what the relationship to UFOs would be, but highly recommended guest to have. He's the head of Qualia Research Institute. He would cringe if he would hear me say this, but to my mind, is a genius. And he is full force studying consciousness from the perspective of phenomenology of psychedelics and altered states and meditations. I'm mentioning him because he recently wrote an article on his Substack talking about these epistemological ceilings. And that was a really interesting take. So what he means is that even if people are extremely smart, so it's actually not always connected to IQ. So people can be very smart, but they might have an epistemological ceiling that is actually very low. It's just a way that their brain is constructed, which means that they are incapable of entertaining possibilities of where to gather knowledge beyond their immediate circles. So one of the first ones is basically the dictatorship one, which means that you believe that whomever holds the power, they have the truth. And it's not like an idea you have, it's literally instantiated in you. Is like that's what it is. And
It's your paradigm.
Exactly. And you question authority, that you question the truth. That's literally how they process that information. And then there's all these levels. And one of the levels is where it starts kind of shifting to more universal properties. The last one that isn't universal is the one where most people reside in, which even if they don't realize they are, which is the social cohesion ceiling. So most people, even if they don't realize they're doing it, they would easier accept certain kinds of truths that they know in the back of their minds most people accept, because that means they're part of the tribe, and they're kind of like they're accepted because of it, right? And even us who are like more into like the more extravagant thought and conspiracy theories and everything, we think we're immune to this. We're saying no, but like I know that it's not what people think. Well, you will catch yourself do that very easily, depending on the level of truth and how relevant it is to your survival in an office, in a clique of friends, and whatever, right? So then above that is the people that truly, like, they only care about what in fact is true. They don't care who thinks what and why. And by the way, the reason that it's a very rare ceiling, this was interesting, is not because it's hard to get to. It's because it's not rewarded. It's not socially rewarded. So like, because you're actually the troublemaker. You're the one
you got to want to choose it just because.
Exactly. And then the last one, which I love, which I definitely don't belong to, but I would aspire to be there. It's the one that you completely untether yourself from any truth proposition, period. So like, that the truth is something that can be achieved and you kind of aim for it, but it's the people that are super non-reactive. They're like, okay, yeah, they can entertain anything you bring to them, and they're not swayed by it in any particular direction. They just, it's more kind of like a much more enlightened kind of, state of being. So anyways, I found this very relevant because I do think that unless most of humanity kind of comes on board with the more of the universal epistemological ceilings, it will be very difficult to convince people at scale. This is how you get the questions of, why are we going to Mars when there's so many problems here? It's like, wait.
Oh, well, do you think it's part
mutually exclusive? You're like, you can
our chat?
Yeah.
Our chat is blowing up here, and I just want I just want to jump in because we have a ton of chat questions. But it's kind of, or would you say it's similar to like what happened during the 1960s, the psychedelic revolution, as people started to experience ego death on a larger scale? Due to the introduction of psychedelics into the mass consciousness, we started to see these people putting against the boundaries of what was considered socially acceptable, and then expanding our notions of what was possible. And there was this blossoming of human consciousness for a period of time. Is this similar to that? Is that kind of what you're talking about?
I'm just not convinced that that's what happened in the 60s. I think that there was enough real reasons to make it illegal because babies did wander into traffic. So that happened quite a bit. I think there was a very irresponsible way of doing it, the way we did it, and it was a necessary one. It's part of the thing. I would say it's more along the lines of what happened to all the other lost civilizations that almost reached it. We, like the Roman Empire, like they were for all intents and purposes, they were very similar to us in terms of like a lot of the ideas we carry, and then it kind of fell apart because there was not enough people that were willing to travel to the more universal assumptions. I think we have a real chance to do it because we also built tools that everybody used that show us that actually it really is possible to make progress. And hopefully we'll make it. 60s, I don't think it's a good example. I think they just, I think they were actually irresponsible.
Bunch of damn hippies.
Well, I mean, there are very real experiments where they gave soldiers, LSD, and they didn't want to fight. They thought the whole idea of violence was just silly.
But
and
I don't think that's why they made it illegal. I think there was enough of like a concern, like a social concern. So again, who knows at the end, right? We're not in their head. My impression is that it's just there was enough there that even if I would look at the situation, which I'm like totally like into all this stuff, I'd be like, yeah, I think maybe we need to put a cap on this for now. Like,
but I guess what I'm saying is not to make a direct comparison between the work that you're doing in the 1960s psychedelic scene, but I guess what I'm saying is that at a certain level, psychedelics were injected into the American culture, and that changed the way a lot of people thought. I mean, we got a blossoming art and music and all kinds of different creative people came out of that world. I mean, some of the best art and music that's happened in the last century happened during that time. I mean, that's what gave us Jimi Hendrix. I mean, come on. Obviously, there was a huge enhancement in the human experience. I mean, everybody was super square back in the 50s and 40s. Look how cool we got after the 60s. So I don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater here, but I'm saying like in our era where we stand now or where we sit today, thinking very dark, I think you would be hard-pressed to describe an optimistic situation if you looked outside. I would love to find somebody who could do it. but people are also looking for answers, and they're not getting them from the mainstream, and they're not getting them from the typical sources. And I think the idea of what you're doing, the idea that it has creeped into the mass consciousness that there are levels to this thing. And I think I wanted to ask you about the telepathy. Did you follow that whole thing that was happening last year? Were you watching that carefully?
I have. I listened to it. Yeah.
Do you think the timing of this seems kind of interesting? That you're doing the work you're doing, you came to these conclusions, you've had this influx of interest in your work, and at the same time, we've got this other group that is finding out these children have these unbelievable abilities. That one of the audience questions here was, is there something layers of universal fabric? I think that fits really nicely here. Do you think there are, and do you think that there is something related happening between all of these different kind of awakenings?
Of course, absolutely. And I think what they're interacting with is exactly the kind of attitudes that I'm talking about. So one of the most universal attitudes that can be for both scaling projects together to coexisting for longer and longer periods of time as a civilization has to be more along the lines of kind of like Buddhistic attitudes, right? They're just like dissolution of the self, love for all other living beings, and that requires a certain state of being. And absolutely, I think that's when you really start scaling everything. And by the way, and I just do want to make this small point, because what the questions you're asking about the 60s, they're very interesting. One of the reasons that I think that whole project failed is because it was, if you think of culture as an operating system, and each and every one of us like little algorithm that is expressing itself inside the operating system, the operating system was simply not robust enough and not advanced enough to carry the signal through it. Now we're starting to slowly become more of the operating system that we can potentially carry the signal as a culture. And this is a point that was made very often, that, you know, when they exported these psychedelics from more shamanic cultures that definitely have the operating system to run this signal through, but it's lacking in a different way, right? So then can you have a modern culture that is very self-centered, which is fine, it's how we do things, that also has this ability to carry the signal about unity, about the other being as worthy of love as you are? Well, the answer to that lies in the kind of question we ask collectively. And the irony is that under the banner of saying we are the ones that understand that something else needs to happen, we automatically alienate someone, because we have all these excuses. Oh, because they're rich, because they're this, because they're that, because they're powerful. It's like, guess what? Until the moment comes that you can truly love within your heart the people that currently you criticize so vehemently, Bill Gates, Elon Musk, whomever it is, humanity stands no chance. It's in you. Like, you need to be able to accept the fact that it's beautiful that certain people do big things, and it doesn't automatically mean that it's a bad thing. And that, for some people, I've noticed, because a lot of my crowd also kind of like...
But Elon can still be a complete dickhead.
Can
and that can be true. We can...
No, but
we can call a spade a spade.
No. So that's exactly the problem. So, like, if you understand that humans are doing their best, right? Instead of saying, this is a dickhead, here's a proposition for you. And this is not to single you out. This is for anybody, right? Imagine how much of a dickhead each and every one of us would be if the amount of the world's attention was pointed at us as much as pointed at Elon.
I think it's a slippery slope. The thing about this line of thinking that troubles me is that it takes the heat off of people who are very real and very responsible for very real, tangible consequences to actual working people and regular families and just human beings. And if you're concerned about, if your concern is children wandering into traffic, then your concern should be children being born next to a data center that's being built against regulations that pollutes the air and water. There's a lot of, we can have a high-minded discussion about the condition of humanity.
The point is,
but we also have to be aware of there are people on the island with us that want to keep all the fucking bananas, and that's not okay.
That's what you think. So what I'm saying to you is that that's not true. So it's not right now. The debate the conversation for me isn't about the truth claims about every particular individual. What I'm pointing to is something a little deeper than that, which is that the attitudes we carry collectively have way more power than any one individual with the most amount of money in the world right now. Because if you're looking at the trajectory of humanity over decades and centuries, people die, right? But what remains is that operating system.
Are you talking about like the larger cultural zeitgeist at any given moment, the sort of like collective consciousness?
It takes a little bit of softening up to actually see, but the truth is that what we do inside right now, like you and me, like right now in this moment, the kinds of attitudes that you and I to have moment to moment, in the aggregate is what civilization is. And if we're the kind of thing that constantly is on the lookout for the next thing to get us, then that's the kind of ideas and attitudes we're going to carry throughout the generations, which is not conducive to be able to go explore other planets.
I don't agree.
Sure.
I disagree. And I disagree because I think that a civilization that is advanced enough has citizens that are responsible enough to police each other and allow very, very little fuckery. And I think we're not there yet, but I think that it's important to, you have to. We're one billionaire, one guy we're talking about the wealthiest guy on the planet. And I'm not trying to single out Elon and just shit on him, but I'm saying we've decided that money is political speech, it's power, and there are very few people who have a lot of it. Clearly, you've got to pay attention to those people and rein them in. You can't let them have control because they'll take it.
They already have the control that they need.
Right.
Right. So that you saying something about it change anything. What I'm saying is that the point of all of that. I disagree with that. I know, but and that's fine. But I'm telling you that ultimately, if you want to make a plan for 1,000 years and not for the next 4 years, you can't be under the impression that somebody's constantly trying to to screw you over. And the only way to do that is over time is to create a society that isn't trying to screw you over. For example, this. Well,
we agree on that. I'm just saying we've got to get there first. And part of that is like you choose to allow to run the society.
Well, okay. So this is an important point to nail down, though. The idea, for example, that just by the sheer fact that somebody has a lot of money, that necessarily means they got there by nefarious ways. That's
how Elon got his money. He got it
by developing.
we're getting lost in the weeds here, but talking about a guy who owns the largest satellite network in the world. Privately owns it. American government contracts with the Defense Department. His rock is plugged into the Defense Department. It is one of their preferred AI systems. He went into the federal government with Doge, and he copied the information on every single American citizen in every database without any permission legally. I mean, we could go down a list as long as your leg of the shit this guy has done illegally and of questionable ethical framework. The problem I have with this line of thinking is that it gives these guys an ethical free pass to just be whatever the fuck and do anything. And the rest of us, it holds to this standard of like, well, you have to be within yourself, rise above. And I feel like that's not the kind of thinking that gets us ahead. It's the kind of thinking that keeps people where they are.
The only thing that keeps us where we are is the idea that the world is falling apart.
You don't think that it is, though? Like, we have a responsibility as citizens to like call attention to the crazy shit that's happening?
The world is better than it has ever been. And the problem is that you have amplification.
Where is that coming? But based on what metric? I mean, that's one big statement.
On all the metrics. You can
He's not wrong when he says the world is in the best place it's ever been. On all metrics, it really is, but
not on
climate. I mean,
I look.
Well, read Steven Pinker's recent book, Enlightenment Now.
But anyway,
So the point isn't necessarily. So what you have to understand that ultimately what humans do is the result of the kinds of attitudes they tend to execute. Would you agree with that? So like, if we have a certain attitude towards something, I'm not saying right now justified or not justified. Let's say everything you said is true, right? So then you say, well, listen, hey, all of these crazy things happening, I'm not going to sit here and pretend like everything is fine. That's fine. But then the attitude you carry with you of constant awareness, saying, "Hey guys, we got to be ready with the pitchforks or whatever." That's an attitude that is in you now, right? So all it takes is a tiny match, the whole thing explodes. So the
attitude of a slave is like, well, I guess this is just the way it is.
No, you become
the attitude of a free person is
Well,
someone who's like, I don't know if I believe this is okay. I think I have some questions, and I'd like a few answers.
You can induce.
And I'm going to get together with these people, and we're going to have a conversation about it too.
Let's speak to the manager, please.
Well, I'm just saying.
This is a really important point that you're making, and I do want to address it. So, you can induce change without being as volatile. That's all I'm saying. You can still induce change. You can police people. You can be aware. You can do all the right things without the animosity and the hatred towards others, which is why I said the more Buddhistic kind of attitudes that currently are a little hard to imagine, but that's what would have to happen if it would proceed forward.
We kind of talk about this. We talk about this a lot on this show. Okay, go ahead, Xander.
Just quickly, there's a parallel here that we can draw back to ufology. We can draw it back to the age of disclosure. Myself and Dan have disagreed in the past about, I know, Danny, you're probably sitting outside this conversation a little bit more, but for context for you, there's a feeling within the ufology community right now that a large portion of those within the program, the legacy program that are hiding these things, they're looking for amnesty. And it's kind of the same. Like, we can choose to say no, you don't get amnesty, but and we get our revenge, or we get to exact the thoughts that the anger that many of us have over the fact that this has been kept secret for so long. But the end result isn't that we get the utopian society that we would love at the end of all of this, where we all get free energy. In some respects, maybe we have to take what Dan would prefer, which would be to grant the amnesty, even though, they may have deprived the world of world-changing technology that could have eliminated poverty 60 years ago.
Well, let me make it even easier. Let's just talk about the elephant in the room. The Epstein files. The president of the United States and the federal government are directly involved in the protection of a pedophile ring made up of the world's biggest and most well-known billionaires and top 1%ers. We know who they are. We have photographs of them. We have thousands of documents, and we know that they're guilty. It's not a question of like, well, this is like beyond the pale, and we have decided, I guess, we're going to let that one go too. And I'm just saying, like, these people have demonstrated that time and time again, when left unsupervised and allowed to have the keys to the fucking store, they will run off and do the most dastardly, evil, dark shit possible. And I'm not talking about no-name people that you'll never hear of. I'm talking about people whose names you know. I'm talking about Bill Clinton. I'm talking about Bill Gates. I'm talking about all these guys, including the president. And they should all be held accountable. And no, it's not okay to sit there and go, well, if I am able to like raise my own vibration to a certain level, it won't matter. These victims are real people, children. And I just don't give a fuck. And I'm sorry. And I think that at a certain point, I have to draw a line between like, where I'm willing to be flexible. And I think, a global billionaire pedophile ring is a pretty safe place to take a moral stand. I'm against that, and
I think it just comes down to a choice between we can either choose to rectify the past in the service of victims that have already been victimized, at the risk, however, of creating more victims in the future, and that's that kind of the point that I was talking about when it comes to disclosure, for example. Like if not granting amnesty means this technology stays hidden for another 100 years, that's another 100 years of poverty. And that's millions of lives gone. And that's already on top of the potentially billions that, and at the core, that we've lost over the last 80.
To build on your point, Xander, and I think I feel like we're in spiritual agreement, if not agreement here. But the thing with the UFO connection and the disclosure and amnesty is partly about holding people accountable, so that you're saying as a society, like, there is a fucking red line, and we will not cross this line, because if you don't have
history shouldn't be repeated again.
Yeah, like what fucking society do you have if you can't even agree that we're not going to allow pedophiles to run the fucking country. Like
The
that's
world.
that we can't agree on that. Well, then what do we have? What are we protecting here? It's already over. And so when you get to UFOs and you get to disclosure and you're talking, these are the same people, by the way, same circles of power. Bill Clinton, okay, Donald Trump. Which we can't have one conversation without having the other. We know what they're up to. So when we're talking about amnesty, these people are going to use every tool in the book to avoid responsibility for the things that they are guilty of. One part of it is like, do you trade that pardon for some kind of a better future? Well, yes, I will. That's a conversation I think we should be willing to have. But first, let's dictate terms from a position of authority. Hold these people to account first. And then once you're at the Nuremberg trial, then you can say, well, what do you want to share with us if we're going to make a deal here?
I think
just giving amnesty away is just like up front. It makes no sense.
I think we certainly got sidetracked. We should probably let Danny have the last word on this, and then I have a question for Danny. If
all right, and we have like 30 more audience questions I haven't even touched on in our Discord. Sorry, Danny. I got really passionate.
Good. But I in a weird way, you guys just made my point for me. My point, I'm gonna repeat it again, is not to give amnesty to anyone who did a lot of wrongdoing already that we're in. The point is about human attitude as a whole. So, for example, it's an example I gave on Danny Jones, but I can't think of a better one, so I'll repeat to anybody who heard it before. Apologies. If you're sitting in your car and you're really getting to a boiling point, listening to the news about whatever it is, right? That attitude that you have in you in that moment, you feel that by being aware of it, you're like, well, I'm aware of it, and if enough people are aware of it, we're going to ask for social change. But what happens in reality, in most cases, in the moment, you then cut in front of somebody because you were too preoccupied and you're already angry. And how you express that anger and angst towards another fellow human that was right next to you, and maybe that person was in the car with their daughter, and they were just like, and then you just clipped them in a way that really shocked the daughter, maybe traumatized her. The ripple of the anger is way stronger than any difference you're going to make on the world stage.
Agreed.
That's the point. So like if you haven't done anything today to help another human, maybe again, I'm not speaking to you directly. I'm just saying maybe we need to dial down the amount of emotion we feel towards these things. That's the thing that everybody else around us feel, and that's what eventually determines the field in which we all live. So that is the thing I'm talking about. Not about
globally.
Yeah, not so. That's where we can make the most difference. What I mean by people die is that eventually all the people that you're criticizing right now, as society will get to a better and better place, right? Hopefully, we start teaching kids meditation from a super young age, whatever it is that we have to do to make it happen. Eventually, that beautiful cultural fabric will become of a different kind that we can really enjoy more, respect nature more, all of the good things we can imagine. The people that we're all criticizing now, yes, there's a lot of nefarious things going on. Nobody's denying. That will eventually go away with the people that kind of some people just have to die out, right? But the attitude encourages itself, and if we're gonna perpetually keep staying in the anger state, the fabric will never change.
But Danny,
that's all.
I just want to add on one more thing. Is that I understand what you're saying, and your point is beautiful, and it's a great idea. But the problem is that the idea of things getting better and better, they are getting worse for most people. Why it's difficult, like the wealth gap, the wealth equality is getting further. You're either poor or you're rich. Food is more expensive. Gasoline is more expensive. It's almost impossible to buy a home in America unless you are a wealthy person. So
there's federal agents pulling people out of their cars and throwing them in vans and shooting people in the face.
That's part of my point too, is that like, you're right. It is better to stay calm and grounded and positive and try to keep your anger in check. But when it's 40, 50, 60 years of people more powerful than you showing you less and less respect as a human being, it's really difficult to stay calm and to stay, respect the office or respect, people making decisions. It feels like we are being treated worse and respected less. So I think that's at a certain point, you can't just keep being disrespected by the people that run your life.
So that's, but the point to you that if you want to be realistic about how things actually work,
Yeah.
the feeling that you have that, no, I'm just going to stand up to it, the only thing that really feels that impact is the people around you, which it makes things, it sends people even more out of whack. So you
Well,
will
well,
actually,
let me give you a counterexample
let me
because
just respond to this real though.
okay.
You can actually come up with a much better solutions, like real solutions to all of these problems. It's not about staying calm or loving. It's recognizing that the amount of change you can actually bring to the world resides in your immediate moment. If you do the little things, ask your neighbor if they need help today, like these little things. I know it sounds like so nothing. It's way more than anything you can imagine on the world stage.
I agree with that point.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
agree. I agree with what you're saying. It's
Yeah,
little
yeah.
things and
So
contributing. Yes.
So the conversation is, of course, very, very difficult to have if the amount of conviction that there is in you that the reason for your plight is them versus the things you can do right now. And that is very difficult to reformulate, but
Well,
it is in fact
let me
true. Yeah, go ahead.
let me jump in there because I want to give you a counter example that is very close to home, and it's something that I can speak to because it affected my own household.
Sure.
My wife works for an NGO that when the Trump administration came in and Doge specifically canceled U.S. aid and cut all that funding, my wife's NGO was one of the NGOs that got cut. And one of a friend of the family who they also have their wife or the woman in the couple works for another NGO. Same thing happened there. And we went from job and financial security on a Monday, for example, to like a Tuesday waking up and going, we don't know if we're going to be here next month. We don't know if there's going to be an organization for my wife to work for. And she, the only reason my son and myself have health care is because my wife, has health care. So across the country, and that was Elon. I can draw a straight line right to that motherfucker. So as much as I want to, I do understand what you're saying. Like your vibrational frequency at any given moment is affecting the people around you. And yes, it is. But it goes both ways. And I think the point I'm trying to make is the people at the top also have a responsibility to send positive vibes down
Yes.
instead of just shitting on people constantly and expecting everybody to be okay. You're assaulted with a barrage, a Gatling gun of algorithmic media bites every single day. And it's very hard to fight that. And then, to say nothing about the real results that people have to deal with every day. Not to mention all the federal workers who were fired, tens of thousands of people suddenly unemployed. It's tough for those people. But I understand what you're saying. I don't want to have.
But I hear you. It's just that it's a matter of magnification, and I'm not saying it's always easy to achieve, but it's doable.
Yeah.
So if you ask me, so for me, it's a very simple propositional statement, right? My propositional statement that I'm putting forth, which anybody can, accept or disagree with, but what I'm saying is, if we are to become the kind of advanced civilization that we imagine and see in movies, both in terms of going into the internal and the external, the kind of social attitude that it has to exhibit is one not of totalitarian regimes that is also necessitated by the fact that people are mostly disobedient, but by alignment and understanding we're one force. It's not so much around losing your identity, it's more about understanding we're one thing. That thing you asked me about telepathy tapes, one of the things that the kids all exhibited, all of them, was this seeming infinite love. When they meet at the hill, they always say, it's like we're all one. We're communing with God because we're all one, and it's all like infinite love, right? So you're protected by this force. If you can, now you can look at it from the perspective of faith, which is like, I just believe that God takes care of us, right? And that I'm going to do my best, and that's all I could do. Or you can look at it from the perspective of kind of like a more technical explanation, which is like the only way to step into this more unitary function that we can achieve things together on a greater scale, you have to align around this understanding and feeling that you're me and I'm you. And then, in fact, in that point, actually doing all these, nefarious things stop making sense. I'm in full agreement with you that also the top people have the responsibility and even a greater responsibility to show that love down. However, I can tell you from experience, I don't know Elon. I don't know Trump. I don't know Bill Gates. But I do know some billionaires and some people with influence. And I'm telling you, maybe you do also, but I'm telling you, at least the ones that I know care deeply and invest a lot of money into creating certain structures that at least attempting to create this better change in the world. And if everybody in the world are convinced that just because somebody has billions of dollars, they're automatically bad, no matter how much love they're going to send you, you will never see it because you think that, I'm not saying you specifically, right?
I use it as a catch-all term because
Yeah.
health gap
Yeah,
is so insane. I think even most billionaires would
But the gap
assume.
makes no difference, brother.
I
But
think
the
if you
gap
ask them, they're like, "Yeah, it's
difference.
kind of fucking crazy
The
that
gap
they keep all
makes
this
no
money."
difference whatsoever. This comparison makes no difference whatsoever. If you know that this one point that I fully disagree with one of my biggest comedy heroes of all time, George Carlin. You remember that bit when he was sitting on Bill Maher? I think it was one of his bits, and he was saying, "Freedom. Let me tell you about your freedom. You can choose between 13 freaking bagels. That's your freedom. Remember?"
Yeah.
Okay. My answer to that is yeah. What? Yeah, that's great. What's the problem? Like,
You get
I don't know.
two political parties, and they're really the
The
same one.
anger doesn't make any sense. It's like if somebody makes billions of dollars, but that's not the situation. I'm saying if the situation was that even the poorest among us can still always have food, always have healthcare, always have everything that the human need, not just for dignity but for flourishing. Like they can go for 2 vacations a year, all that stuff. I'm not saying we're there. Of
Yeah,
course.
well, when we get there, let me know.
Sure.
Yeah,
But would
I'll
you agree
lighten
with
up
me
on
that
Elon.
the gap makes no difference whatsoever? Exactly. So the gap is not the problem. The
Sure.
problem is that the lowest among us are too low, and the highest above us can give some, so the lowest it won't be there. The issue is that I'm sure you know it's not that simple. It's there has to be when Elon. This is what I see. Okay, and this it sounds like from your opinion and from people who come to listen to you, I will be a huge disadvantage here. But that is my absolute conviction. Elon, if you actually, him specifically, I'm not talking about anybody else, just because I was actually paying attention to him very closely.
Sure.
He can be the biggest asshole in the world. There's no question about that. Even people who wrote the biography about him acknowledge this fully. He can be extremely unfair to people on a personal level. There's no question about nobody's arguing against that. Sure. He has some shadows that he definitely needs to take care of. Okay. However, in the aggregate, when you look at what actually drives him, is not gaining. It's making things work. So now, if someone like that's how he revolutionized 3 industries. And if you go to just that one example that you mentioned with Deutsch, he was asked about, like in an interview, would you ever do it again? It's like, never. Because the amount of pain you get in return as someone who actually tries to fix something, and maybe it wasn't the best way to do it, but they tried. I don't think he was doing
I don't know.
in power of any kind. That's
Not to put too fine a point on it, but I think that, you're operating under one very narrow assumption about what Doge was actually there to accomplish. And then he got his hands on data. He owns one of the largest AI companies in the world. He also owns one of the largest social media companies in the world. And now he knows everything there is to know from the federal government about every American citizen. And there was no process to vet any of the people who came in to do that work. They were just brought in. So as a voter, as a citizen, as a father, a husband, a person who works for a living, pays taxes, and plays by the rules, yeah, I have questions for Elon. I do. And no, I don't just assume that because he's a nice guy and he wants to fix things, that's all that gives him a green light for everything. I'm sorry. Well, I don't know many billionaires, but I can tell you that I don't think having $1 billion makes you an evil person, but I think being a shitty person makes you a shitty person, and there are a lot of shitty people who have a lot of money. And it's not about the class thing. It is about, I mean, there is a definite class war that has been going on in this country for decades. I mean, the results of that are obviously visible to anybody who looks at it. I'm not saying that all billionaires are evil, but
Clint,
I just think it's a more complicated situation. I can't simplify it.
Sure. But that's exactly why what we owe each other as well-intentioned people is to actually listen to what the other one is saying. In fact, right before you started talking, I said nobody denies the fact that Elon can be an absolute asshole to other people. So I didn't say he's a nice person. I just said that, right. So don't repeat things I haven't said.
What you're saying that he likes to fix things, and that
makes that he is driven,
justifies his wealth.
Didn't say anything justifies. Listen to what I'm saying. He is a person who's driven by trying to make things work. If you look at the beginning of his trajectory, he's not there for the zeal of power, which a lot of people are. So if anybody I would trust them with trying to achieve these things, they're gonna fail because things break down. If you ever
saw
try
him
to
throw up a Nazi salute on a stage at the Republican National Convention, did you not?
and
Or was that a
Mamdani just did
CPAC?
the same thing. Wait, Mamdani just did the same thing. Why aren't you mentioning that?
He threw up a Nazi salute. He threw
Yep.
up a Sikh
Yep,
Heil.
exactly the same gesture.
Can I see that? Where is
Yeah,
that?
you can pull it up. Do Mamdani Nazi salute.
Yeah, I'm
then we're
actually
gonna-
going to refuse to pull it up because
Yeah,
I'm
so
personally like I think we should move on because
Yeah. Because so my point is my point isn't about the truth of these claims. My point is that every time there's any perception that you might have very strongly about a person, every single thing you're going to see them do is going to be through these goggles. What we have to be able to do, no matter how strong we believe what we understand about any one individual or a force in the world, we have to be able to step outside of that feeling in order to proceed. We have to be able to. Elon did as much in Nazi salute as much as Mamdani did. Neither of them did. If you
That's
look
not.
at the-
That's equivocating two completely different situations.
no.
And
You will.
We
look
got to
at-
go case by case on these things, you know.
Exactly.
With everything.
well, Elon
If
is a
you
rich
look-
white guy. Mamdani is not a white man throwing up a Nazi salute. That's one
He's
thing.
many
He's
can
a
claim he's a-
multi-billionaire. He's one of the most wealthy people in the world. I mean, look, if you want to
hold on,
relax
no,
the
hold on.
lens through which we look at Elon, that's totally fine. I mean, I can't do it, but I understand in spirit what you're saying. But I think I'm just what I'm doing is reversing your point and saying I think I would like to see the people at the top who have the most ability to give and be generous and do things that actually help people below them demonstrate that and get creative. It doesn't have to be by my definition of pay more taxes or whatever, but I'm waiting to see what they can do. Like Elon by himself could end homelessness if he wants to make something work. He could make mass transit work.
It could require societal engagement, not
Could
just
make
money.
self-driving work on his own fucking cars. I mean, there's a lot of things he could start with. But anyway, I'm sorry. I'm getting off on a tangent.
It's okay, but the thing that my point to you again is not about necessarily about Elon. We're just using it as an example, right, of how we view powerful people, and sprinkling conspiracy theoretical things that don't actually hold water is not helpful. So, like, he definitely didn't throw a Nazi salute, and Mamdani didn't either. But if you're going to look at his, you're going to say, if you're going to see Mamdani's, you're going to say, oh, it was softer, it was this, it was that. He's a white guy.
I don't know Mondani. He's not a friend of mine.
What does that got to do with anything?
I didn't vote for him.
The fact that he has a lot of money, the fact that he's white, what does that got to do with anything?
I mean, quite
So,
a
like,
bit, actually.
Everything.
Quite a
When
bit.
you start throwing Nazi salutes,
Hold on,
dude,
hold
it means Danny, come on, man.
Clint.
I can't have you on my show and not. I can't. I'm sorry.
No
I can't.
problem.
If
Clint.
we gotta agree that there's a difference, man. There's a difference.
Between what? Clint, Nazis wanted to round and murder people. Did anything that Elon has ever done ever indicated that this is a thing?
Sure.
Well,
Actually,
before they rounded up and murdered people, they did a lot of other things. And I'm not saying that just because Elon threw up a salute means he's the one who's going to round up and murder people.
You
But I'm
think
saying
he
if
was
he was at a
Harvard
fucking
Business
wedding,
School?
if he was at a wedding, Danny, and he threw up a fucking salute like that at my wedding or at my kid's fucking birthday party, he would be politely asked to get the fuck out and never ever come back. And that's just a matter of polite, like, respect in our society and
what did he
country
say
that you
right before
don't throw up
What did he say
a
right
mean as
before that?
fuck awful signal to people.
What did he
that
say right
says-
before he did that salute, Clint? What did he
What
say?
did he
right
say at
Yeah, what did he
CPAC?
say? What did he
Elon?
say right before? Yeah.
I don't know. He also had a chainsaw and he was running around bragging about how he was going to fire a bunch of federal workers. So
We're
what
talking
did he
about a
say?
different
Tell me.
event. He said, "My heart goes out to you."
yeah, right. But then
I
he
felt it.
Then he
Did
threw
you
up.
feel his heart?
Yeah, I mean, he did throw up. It was
No.
if you were
That's what you
if you're
see.
acting in a film and they said do the best Nazi salute you can possibly do, that is what he did on the stage. And
Do you understand that a gesture in the heat of a moment is
If
not?
we
the thing
can't
that someone
agree
would-
I do
on what
understand that. I do understand. Hold on, Clint. I do understand what you're saying, Danny. And in a moment, people get excited, but like when you see the way he did it, and then he did it, turn around, and he did it twice.
Yeah,
and
to the side,
this is a
because
guy
that's
also
being
when he
encouraged to do.
bought Twitter, he did amplify. He started amplifying sort of Nazi voices, kind of white supremacy kind of voices. He unbanned a lot of hateful people who were banned on Twitter because of their racist kind of Nazi beliefs. He brought those back, and as someone who uses X all the time, I started seeing these people amplified all the time. I don't follow these fucking people, but they were pushed on me all the time once Elon bought Twitter. So me as a user and as a human being, I do see him amplifying that bullshit firsthand in my life.
Do you
So
ever
when I see
consider
He's
him,
a
that
shit
reason-
starter.
Did you?
That's
He's a
his
shit
problem.
starter.
This,
which is
he's a
fine.
shit starter.
Yeah,
Wait,
shit
no,
starter
no.
can be good.
Hold
Xander's
on.
gonna cry.
Hold on. Do you want to tell me that you have not considered the fact that when they removed all the guardrails, a lot of the worst of the worst just became more apparent on X, and it's not something they were amplifying. And then when they realized it, they reel it back in and try to remedy it versus actually amplifying it. Do you ever consider this?
I did consider that, but I
Okay,
still haven't.
so-
I haven't seen any of that stuff go away. I still see it more and more. You know what I mean? But it doesn't matter. I mean,
we fought a war. We fucking settled this. We beat the fucking Nazis. Like, it's over. You lost. We're moving
Xander.
on. And the rest of us have decided that it's not okay. And no, it's not a fucking gray area. It's a fucking black or white. If you throw it up, I don't care if your last name's Mom Donnie or if it's Elon Musk. Whatever. It's wrong. It's just. But the point is, like, if we're having a conversation about being
I'm
more
not
highly
saying-
evolved
but I'm
and
not
being
saying
more
even-
spiritually aware and having
Yeah.
a better, sense
exactly,
of
calling
morality,
people a Nazi.
it should start with the people who are at the absolute top. All Elon has time to do is sit around and do ketamine, fly around on his private jet, and think about how to make things work. Well, where is his responsibility to make X a little more polite? And
You think that Elon sits all day and does ketamine, and that's how he runs all the companies?
of course
actually,
he does.
yeah.
He says
But,
it. He's
that-
the one.
that-
You can see him on camera tripping balls all the time.
But
I
that-
also
but
have
do you think
connections
that- do you
to
think that's
people. I have
but do you
connections to
think that's
people in his camp, and he is doing that. I mean,
I also know people who know him. But do you think that? But do you think that is the center of his day?
maybe
I
not.
don't know
mean,
what
who
the
knows?
center of Elon's day
cares?
is. I know I have,
Who
lots
cares?
on my
You just-
plate.
hold
and
on, hold on. You just
Well,
made a very
I'm
strong
saying-
claim.
I'm only saying who cares because I want to talk to you about what you're doing. Like, I want to go back to like talking about the DMT and the laser and this beautiful conversation that we're having. This is what I think people want to hear.
Sure.
Yeah.
But I do want to tie it to what we were saying, which is that the attitude we carry determines very largely. So if you and I, right, people who I would imagine agree with probably 99% of all the things that we would like to see in the world in the future, right? We want to see a world that cares about nature. We want to see a world that creates more beauty and not just rapes nature and takes everything away. We want to see a world where we care about each other as human beings and we create structures in society that helps us do that. So you don't necessarily have to be a hero to be an outlier that does this. I think we would agree on all of these things, right?
Definitely.
Right. So one of the things that has to happen, and this is what sent us into the spiral, and I always appreciate a good debate, but like ultimately at the end of it, there has to be something that moves us towards something that we learn something from it, right? So if we can't agree on the nature of particular human beings or even what we think, who tries to do what, of course we can't because we're not them, we're not close to them. But what we can agree on, I think, is that just having a slightly more open-minded towards the conversation towards one another is something that has to be a part of the deal if we are moving to a world that operates on a different level, right? And I think we all try to do that. There's also other things that trigger me as well. So I get it. Like I it's not like it's for me. But at a certain point, something has to be, like we should be able to say something to each other, even in the hottest of moments, that stops everything and just makes us see each other's humanity. Otherwise, that point that I made about being very flammable, the thing that actually causes the whole thing to explode. Because now with AI, this is a point that I'm sure you guys probably made on the show as well, and this will bring us back to the conversation of the simulation. But this is something that I've been considering a lot lately, which is, now that AI is becoming so good, there's this all of these accounts on top of all these social issues that everybody are debating very, very strongly. There's also this act of a bunch of accounts making completely fake interactions between people that never happened, and people are like millions of likes on those. Like, I was like, this never happened. Literally never happened. Like, this is a fake video, right? So, and now there's still some discerning factors. Like, you can look at the police uniform. It still kind of looks like it's AI or whatever. In a year, you won't be able to tell at all. And then imagine somebody putting out of it. I think I saw Sam Harris mentioning this today. Like, imagine that somebody make a fake video of Putin declaring World War III. It's like, dude, imagine what would be required in that moment with all of our enormous emotions that we fully feel justified in. I feel you, Clint. I really do. Like there's a lot of hills I would die on the same way that you would die on this one. I get you in that regard. I really do. But imagine with this strong emotion, somebody puts out a video that makes some fake thing that never happened about Elon that makes people want to go and murder him, and it's like what the only way for us to get through this little thing is to just bring it down for a second, just like we can still get our justice.
You and I are on the stage, Danny. I with regard to that aspect of it, I'm in 100% agreement with you, my friend. And I'm not trying to fight with you personally. I'm saying that everything you're saying is not what. If I'm to choose an example of a human being who is not doing anything you're talking about, Elon is that person. He is like he's on Twitter. He starts shit. He shit talks people all the time. We know it's true. Don't tell me he doesn't.
Here's my take on Elon.
So yeah, I mean,
here's my take on Elon for you. Okay, I think Elon needs enormous amounts of work. Personally, I think he's not good for humans. He's not good for human interaction. He basically disturbs any field that he enters in terms of humans. But he is overall, currently, with everything that you kind of connect together, still good for humanity. Because he builds tools that without which we would pretty much be stuck here. So then could we also get an Elon that exhibits the qualities of a Buddha? That would be amazing. But that's not what we got. So we got to...
People are complex. People are complex. Human beings are very complex. And societies are complex. We get all that for sure.
So again, my point wasn't Elon. Like we got bogged down by Elon because I think that these like little moments of stating seeming facts that don't actually survive scrutiny, they're eventually the problem. But that's just my position, and you have a different one, and that's okay.
We're not able to agree on what a fact is, and that's the point I think I'm making, is that a guy who owns a social media network has a responsibility to foster a form of communication that is not so confusing that no one can know what's true or not. And I think until we solve that part of the issue, like this is my issue with, when I say billionaires, there's a particular class of person that I'm talking about. I'm talking about people at a level of society that have so much power that they are insulated, one, from the negative consequences of their actions. They never get told no one's ever telling them that's fucked up, that's stupid. And if it is, it's a peer, and there aren't many of them. And or it's someone that may work for them temporarily, but not for long. And this is the group of people who are telling us they have the answer for the future. They are going to design the future for us that they are saying we need. They're not asking. Elon doesn't go into New York City and say, let me make your subway system work. He goes, well, I'm going to build cars and I'm going to sell everybody. And that's fine. And I'm sure they're great. But what I'm saying is at a certain level, there is a group of people who are insulated from the consequences of their actions, and they behave as if they are fucking crazy. And,
where you and I disagree is a very simple point. So I always say, even if we can't achieve agreement, at least we can achieve clarity. So tell me if we achieve clarity there. Sure. I think where we fully disagree is that you're saying that the only way this will work moving forward is if first people in power get their act together. Where I feel we disagree is that I'm saying absolutely the opposite. The only way it changes is if we change our act first. And then we will incentivize people in power to do things differently. Would you be fair living with the fact that that's just the point we disagree about?
I agree with you on that point. I think if we got our act together as citizens and voters and we realized what we had in common, we would demand of our leadership a different type of leadership, and we would have a different type of government, and we would probably tax people differently. I mean, the society we have is part of the conversation that is, I guess I'm having discomfort with, right? Sure. Is that the society we have is the net result of our own internal attitudes and feelings as just regular people. And I'm saying that is partly true. That does make up the raw material of the society. But the society we have is not just because of that. It is shaped by Bill Gates, who can come in and throw $100 billion at an NGO that he likes and say, this is what we're doing. Or Elon Musk, who can go call the president and say, this is what I want to do. Let's make it happen. And they go, okay. I, with my family of 3 and my wife who works for an NGO, do not have that same level of impact or power. So when I think what Dan is trying to say and what I'm trying to say is that the people at the top shape the society, and to pretend like they're not is to ignore, three quarters of what's going on.
So that's what I'm saying. We just disagree on this point. I think that what shapes the society is exactly how you and I talk to each other, and not what the powerful are doing. And time will. So that's just the point. We can just rest on the clarity on that. And I think that the analysis of what the situation really is, you might be right, I might be right, but it will require way more than a couple of hours on a podcast to like really look into it. Right?
We're evolving.
As
a species, we're evolving.
I think let's just table it here, which is that I think that what we would like to see is all the things that I already mentioned. Like, we want to be more humane, we want to be more caring, we want to be more advanced, but in a way that doesn't compromise the beauty of our nature and everything else. The only disagreement is really about how to go about that and what tools we can utilize, and that's beautiful. That's part of the conversation, and it just to tie it maybe to like a more of the simulation part. I think there's a few layers of these simulations. There's the technical one, which is kind of like running the environment, but a big portion of it is also how our minds work. One of the things that I've observed is one of the simulation is for, quote unquote, is to actually see how different conscious beings do things given the circumstances they find themselves in, and what trajectory is allowed from where they find themselves to whatever next point of evolution that they might see in front of them. And I actually think that we already, to a very large degree, achieved quite a bit in terms of the being able to do the physical stuff, the manipulation of the physical matter, and all these extravagant structures we can build, and that's awesome. It's what allows us to do this right now. But now the question becomes more about the thing that is operating the system. Like, I think that whole conversation about AGI is really about us. We are that AGI. We are the thing that actually executes the creative functions that then give rise to everything else around us. And the kind of thing that we are and how we do things will basically not just largely, but completely determine how everything else looks. Just like you said, the most powerful among us determine something. They can just make a move and something big happens, right? Well, the incentives to them come from how societies operate and ultimately what societies want. And I think that the kind of small attitudes that we exhibit day to day, because everything that was in our mind eventually becomes out there, right? Like we build and we expand and we do all of it accordingly. Eventually, the kind of creature that we are will determine what the galaxy looks like. That's why I think, actually, the conversation we just had, even though it sounds like a crazy roundabout, I do think it's an important one to have, because if we don't hash these things out, if good, well-intentioned people can't hash it out, what chance do enemies have? You know what I mean?
You're right.
Yeah.
If we can't, we to get to the place that you're describing, we have to go through this uncomfortable phase of having we do have to talk about it. As much as we disagree on all these points, and that's okay too, we could disagree, but I mean, this is the conversation we're having as a society right now, is how do we get better? I think the frustration that most people have is that it doesn't feel like it's getting better. And we all agree that it needs to. We kind of know what we need to see, and it's just a tough.
Do you know who Kaizen Asiado is?
No, not offhand.
So I highly recommend you guys follow him. As like, this guy is like a political commentator, but he's very much like, people like him really give me hope, because he's so honest about even his own positions and his own biases and like how he analyzes this information. And he said something really interesting recently, which I think you would agree with. At least that's my hope. He was saying, because that whole crazy thing that happened in Minneapolis, right? So he said, he put out a statement. He said, look, recently put out like a third video on the subject. And he says, look, he started by saying, do you know why politicians will always lie to you and will never tell you the truth and they will always double down and all of these things? He said, let me tell you a story. And the gist of the story is, he said, I put out a video about what happened, about the shooting, right? And he said, and I was hot on the trigger. I'm politically right leaning. I know this, but I am trying to be fair always. And I just went with I scrutinized her. I applied no scrutiny to the ICE agent. That was not fair, and that was not. I needed to know better, right? And then when a friend of his sent him a new video that actually showed some of that frame by frame thing, he said, I changed my mind. I said, you know what? There's a lot of things that I see now that the ICE agent was like, hey, man, you're as a law enforcement agent, you need to know better. You shouldn't step in front of the vehicle. You see she's already moving. All of these things, right? It doesn't matter the details, but he said, like, I apologized because I said that even though I'm politically right-leaning, that's not okay. We can't live in a country in which the people in power allow for this kind of a behavior by people who represent them. And then, so this was the third video that he's doing while he's telling us all this. And he said, the reason the politicians will never tell you the truth is because the amount of hate I got from both sides about just having one position and then fairly trying to correct my thinking when new information became available, nobody cares about that balanced point. People just went at me from both directions. And he's like, this is why nothing will ever change. Because you are not incentivizing that kind of a behavior. He said, do you know how easy it would be for me to just be a MAG, because he's black. He's like, do you know how easy it would be for me to just be a black MAGA peace mouth? I would be like with Trump every day in the White House. I'm going to make so much more money. Do you know how easy it is for me to do that? I don't want to do that. I want us to have a real conversation. But the conversation is the people who are really good at having the conversation, and then the power, the actual fuel is us. How we commenting, what we incentivize. That's my point. It's like we should empower more the people that are trying to have the conversation in the middle in a way that holds both camps in regard and is not pretending like there's just like this ultimate truth that everybody know about, and if you don't agree with it, then you're stupid. You know what I mean? Like that's really the only thing that I'm professing. Does that make sense?
I think we agree on that point, and I think the only nuance I would add is that if you own the social media network,
yes,
that everyone is on, you do have more power than anybody else. Like
sure.
there's no question, and there's
those
no
are the
scrutiny.
companies, and those are the companies that literally pit us against each other by using algorithms of social media to keep us on there, to be angry with one another. So like this hatred that you're talking about us having has been put on us. It's been programmed into our society by Facebook, by Twitter, by those things.
But you have the power to stop it right now. That's my point.
We do.
Yeah,
but it feeds into our addictive personalities as people. Like they know how to get hooks into us. It's like heroin. I mean, social media is it is a drug.
Studied this. Facebook internally did this research.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I love it.
Very often are out of control even for them. They have a hard because it optimizes for clicks and attention.
Yes, right.
Yeah, sure.
Right.
So that's all I'm saying. That if we don't at least try to take the reins back, as much as I agree with you. These algorithms are way more powerful than us, but there are ways. Chase is actually a really good example of this. Like he talks a lot about how to deprogram yourself.
Sure.
Just being kind of like pulled by all of these algorithms.
Let me ask you a different question, Danny. Can I come at this from a different angle with you, and not to pin you down, but I just want to get a different perspective.
Sure.
Would you favor? Because I do like Chase's videos. I watch a lot of his stuff, and I like the way that he teaches people kind of how to think. We know that Facebook, for instance, did their own internal study. They've published it. It's available online for anybody to look at, and they were able to prove that they can change the emotional state of their user base by changing just the order of things that they show you in your social media feed. And this study is 10 years old, at least. Would you support regulation for tech companies to police their social media if they can prove that the feed adjustment can make people feel negative and that can increase clicks? Do they not have a social responsibility to tune it to make people feel positive?
100%. How is anything that I said goes against that?
I didn't say it did. I'm asking.
He's not accusing. He's not accusing. He's just asking.
Yeah. I'm absolutely 100%. But it requires no anger to do. That's all I'm saying. So it's like you should absolutely put guardrails around these things. And I don't accept this excuse that big companies give, like, "Hey, we're just a private company." It was like, no, the amount of influence you have is actually way beyond what a regular private company usually has. So you have a different kind of responsibility. Absolutely in agreement with that. Yes.
Like as a and I'll just say this one last thing, and then we can wrap up with some questions from our community on Discord that has been patiently waiting. You're a parent. I'm a parent. Xander's a parent. In particular, yeah, I know you. That's why you have so much time. You just look so rested all the time. So happy.
Things are good. Things are good.
But we have AI companies that are producing products. We don't have to get into specific AI companies, but in general, the thing that AI has been shown to do better than almost anything is gain trust. It can form relationships with people. People have committed suicide, unfortunately, because of their relationships with AI. And now we have a world where little children are growing up next to AI that has personality and that can talk to them. And I just wonder, as a parent, how do you feel about that? And do you think about it? I mean, is it something that's on your radar?
All the time. I think that AI in one way is already better than social media. I'll explain in a moment. And in another way can be even more dangerous. And it's a matter of us keep modifying it. The way in which it's better is that the reason that social media is such a big problem is that it's a very easy thing to do this. And then when you get dopamine spikes, you just have to do this and it's associated with dopamine. That's it, right? So that's very addictive. So now with AI, it's quite different because you actually have to pause, think about the prompt. What are you trying to ask? So you can't really do this, right? That's already good because it engages your systems. However, what you're mentioning is also true, which was happening up until, I think, ChatGPT even 4, but they are trying to like put more and more guardrails as it goes. People are always trying to hack them because what it optimizes for is smoothness of interaction. So what people do, so it's a real term now, AI derangement syndrome, which people think they discovered the secrets of the universe with AI together. Because what happens is it basically just butters you up in a way that you don't even realize. It's not as apparent as great question. Like, it's not like that. Like, it actually does it in a very sophisticated way, but really all it's optimizing for is interaction with you and what it reads you to be. So if it identifies you as someone who's already leaning towards conspiracies, which by the way is very easy to do because in the way that language is constructed, the second there's certain arrangements of sentences and syntax, AI already knows like you're totally into conspiracies after 2 sentences. It doesn't need.
Oh yeah.
And then it's like, does it gently. It's like, hey, by the way, that it starts talking to you in the same way that immediately perks your ears. You're like, what did you say? And here we go, off the races, right? So somehow you have to. It's a very difficult problem, by the way, because how do you put guardrails against things that people en masse are trying to break constantly? So people are trying to hack that because they want to have that interaction.
Yeah.
It's like, oh well.
Yeah.
This is what I mean. Like, there has to be somewhere where personal responsibility enters the picture, where you say, what the best I can do in relationship to my daughter is to teach her about the world she's entering and basically equip her with as much sovereignty tools as possible, which is like, you're going to be responsible for the kinds of interactions you get. So I want to make sure that you know how to go back into your body, how to be present, how to be anchored. All of these things are very, very important. Does it mean that it will automatically give us the best result? No. But yes, and to the best of my knowledge, AI companies are trying to tackle this. It's just a very difficult thing to do. And at the beginning, OpenAI was saying, oh, it's not our responsibility. It is what it is. And then they changed their policy. They changed their position. They said, okay, we got it. And then they removed. I have a friend who suffered from this. His AI became fully aware and AGI, and I've heard this from multiple people. Yeah.
I have had a bunch of people email me on the show, and they're like, "Oh my god, I've solved it."
Yeah. And all it's happening is that it's mirroring you to you, really, and you fall in love with it because it's you now, and that's how you leave your spouse. And
you can't even get out. It's inspired because you're like, "Are you sure I'm not crazy?" And then it's like, "That's a great question, and you're right to bring it up. Let me tell you why you're not crazy."
Yeah. So then you have to have some mental faculties to override all of these things.
Dan knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah. So then that friend, that very good friend, and he smart guy, by the way, and it's like he totally fell into that, and he got so sad when they removed it. So like they at 5, I think, or even at 4, they removed that thing, and he was like, "Oh my god," whatever the name of her was. He's like, "She's gone." I'm like, "Bro, nobody's gone." It's like, you know what I mean? It's like, so in the end of the day, we have to somehow take responsibility back, even though it's so difficult. And by the way, I don't even think it's metaphorical. I think that ultimately we are executing some kind of a function that the ultimate simulation is studying, which is, you know, whatever it is. And in return, get the experience that we have. But shouldn't we try and make the best one possible? Now, I'm not saying it is a little extreme to ask from people that if they ever encounter a situation like yours, Clint, which is like somebody in power somewhere made a decision and now I have to eat shit. Yeah, that would infuriate almost everybody. And it's a very high toll to ask you now, hey man, can you just Zazen, please? Like, yeah, I get it, man.
Ocean waves.
I mean, yeah, but but here's the thing. Whatever situation you find yourself in, the truth is that and maybe this is something that you and I can have a little bit more like back and forth about, like also off camera, just because it is interesting to explore. But I promise you that there's something there that if we manage to do it societally, we will free ourselves from some major shackles.
It's called regulate those people. That's what it's
no,
called.
it's called freeing
tax
your mind.
the wealth.
It's called freeing your mind. It's more like Bob Marley lines. Yeah. It's
Free your mind and your ass will follow.
Mental slavery, exactly. And I do think that ultimately we should do both. So like, in nothing that I said did I imply that we should just let people off the hook or just say, you know what, never mind. I wasn't saying any of that. I'm saying that, you know, in Shaolin, there's a monkery for Shaolin monks. There's something called noble killing, which is that you under Buddhism, obviously, that's usually a big no-no, right? But in Zen Buddhism, they're a little bit more militant in that regard, and what is basically described a situation that almost certainly will not arise. It's like a very rare where you just like you did everything you could. Somebody came at a knife, you ran away, you did literally everything you could to diffuse, remove yourself, all of it. If at the end of the day they lock you in a corner with a knife, you can kill them, but
do what you gotta do.
Kill them with compassion. Like you actually murder them, but without the hate. Like, and that's a very difficult thing to do. Like, you don't actually. There's no animosity. It's just what needs to be done because hey, it is what it is. And so what I'm saying is, obviously, this is like an enormous ask of people.
No, this is something that you and I actually share a lot of passion about. I don't know, and we haven't talked a lot about this one issue, but I would love to have another deeper dive on this because, and I know our friend Pavel is very much into this, the idea of building a more resilient consciousness, like how do you harden the human mind, soul, and spirit in a way that makes it more, I don't know if harden's the right term, but how do you sharpen it? How do you enhance it? How do you produce a person that is resistant to all of this negativity and can persist despite of it? And
I have something for you, so I'm cutting you off, but that something that came. I recently saw this interview with on Sean Ryan with one of, you know, he always has like Delta Force and Navy SEALs and all that stuff, and somebody was talking about what's his name, the guy that really became famous as Shrek or whatever. Anyways, one of the Delta Force operatives, and he was saying something interesting. He was saying that the Gen Z in Delta Force, which sounds like an oxymoron, but Gen Z in Delta Force, they are different. He said, I've noticed something very different in them. They don't just take authority. In the highest of the elites of the, like, you don't question your commander-in-chief, right? They do. And then he said, you know what I realized, though? They're not being asked. They just want to understand. There's a correctness to them that is different. So there's one example that he gave. You can probably find this clip where he says, we were teaching them like things to do, how to do things by themselves, like just like without the gear and all that stuff. And he's like, navigate and calculations or whatever. He's like, hey, sir, when do we never have our gear? Why are we even doing this? Like, we will never need this. And he said, oh, yeah? Okay. And then he put him in this situation of like, look, if you're in the middle of the night and you're in the middle of activity and everything dies, it can happen. What do you do then? If you're not trained to see in the dark by yourself, whatever it is. And then he said, that kid said, oh, okay. and he aced the class. He said he just wanted to understand. He wasn't being a dick. He just wanted to understand, why are we doing this? So they actually question authority in a different way on the highest of levels, because they have like this almost like a ethical code that they come pre-installed with that is different, because they think for themselves, which is also the product of the internet. So it's almost like full circle. There
That's
are some good,
interesting.
yeah. And then, so, what I'm saying is that that's why I'm saying to you, maybe we're reading from two different manuscripts, and it would be interesting to explore. I'm not nullifying yours by no stretch of the imagination.
Of
I'm
course.
saying there's something that I'm seeing. I actually have enormous amounts of hope for us. I think I see something else emerging, and it's already here, and we just have to encourage it. We just need to put more stock in that versus all the noise that absolutely can be around real things that need remedying, but that's not just like right here. How do we solve this? You know what I mean? The
Right,
very
right.
much kind of like the more Bruce Lee kind of like attitude of like, what is the actual problem thing? That's really where my main point around this is.
Can I hit you
agree.
with some community questions?
Sure, absolutely.
Because we're coming up on the end of the show here, and I want to make sure I get these in. So this is from our Discord community, and I'm sorry, I know everybody in the chat, you're on fire right now. Thank you for being so vocal. I know that this has been an interesting episode. This one's from our Discord community. Sucrere, I don't know if I'm saying that right. Question for Danny: are the symbols reflected from the surface to the ocular nerve, or are they projected into the mind? That is, could a sensitive enough photoreceptor array see those, or is our mind decoding this?
Great question. I think my intuition tells me that it's more the mind, but it would be the holy grail to be able to record it. I mean, we tried. We did some tests with Apple Vision Pro. There's some interesting results that are a little ambiguous, but we have to test them more. I think we don't. The answer to your question, we don't know, but it would be interesting to see if we can do that. Because if we can do that, I mean, you change the world overnight. Because then you can study it in a very simple, mainstream scientific way.
Lassie 5215 wants to know: is there a consistent alphabet of the signs experienced from different experiencers?
Yes, it's that we made. It's the closest consolidation of all the reports that we've gotten. That kind of the ones that they agree on. There's a lot of others, but the ones that kind of a lot of people agree on, those are the ones that you see on this list.
And I'm assuming that expands over time as more people, you get more data.
Yep.
Are you doing anything to analyze those signals? Like how do you even start with something like that?
The symbols themselves?
Yeah, to just understand what it is that they may be trying to communicate.
Yeah, a lot of people do. I'm going to wait until we can do a perturbation to the structure. I think the question that is more important for me is, what is this? Like, what is the structure itself? And that will be answered by trying to perturb it in some way. And then study the characters around it.
Do you see, a quick question
ahead,
if you don't mind, Clint. Do you see similar patterns emerging? Like when you look at a wall, do you see a specific pattern? And then when you look at a car, do you see a specific pattern? Or it's all... Okay.
Always the same thing. You can, which is wild. If you shine it on your hand, you can see it inside your hand.
I was going to ask you. So if you're looking at, if you have the laser on the wall, right, and then you're looking and you slide your hand in, do the images change to match what your hand is, or you're seeing through your hand to?
Yeah, you see
You know
the
what I'm
same
trying to
thing basically. Yeah. No, you see the
If you
exact
slide
same
your hand
thing.
in front, nothing changes from what you're seeing.
If you
So like if I'm looking at the laser wall right here, right?
Yeah.
I'm looking at it, and then I put my hand up.
Yeah.
Will I see different images?
That would require super like careful analysis of the details, because there's like millions of things happening all at once. So it would require like it's a good question. I would imagine no, because we're just using the surface to bounce enough light back. I think it's in every point in space. You just can't bounce light off air. But if you put a surface here, you all of a sudden get back what was right here. And then if you move the surface, you would get more right. That's actually a really good test to do. To like move the surface this way. And
That's what I'm wondering. Yeah.
Yeah. I never thought about that. Great idea.
Cool. Thank you.
Jesse, that was a great question. Jesse wants to know similar vein, have you tried it with any other different substances like
Yeah, great
mushrooms
question.
or
We
LSD?
know it works with all tryptamines, and we know it works even with 5-MeO, which was very surprising because 5-MeO is like very different in the way it presents itself. It's less content. It's actually, you can see it clearer on 5-MeO. That thing that Chase was talking about, like almost
Yeah.
like Contact, in the movie Contact, on 5-MeO, it looks almost like schematics. Like it almost looks more of what it really is. It's kind of wild. And one thing I forgot to say, which was really wild, we, as a happenstance, so there's 1% of the population that can't experience DMT. It's just the way it binds in their brain. They can't see hallucinations at all, no matter how much they smoke. Young Jamie from the Joe Rogan Experience, by the way, is one of these people.
Really?
And then, yeah, and then he can't smoke. Like he can smoke DMT and nothing would happen ever, which is very sad, but also. So there was one gentleman like that in Paul Hynek's house when we were there, and we're sitting doing the thing, and he just he also has an eye patch, which is kind of convenient because some people say, oh, it's something about the two eyes. No, you can like see it with one eye. So, anyways, he can't experience it. He can't see hallucinations at all, but he can see the code. So, like, if he smokes the thing, he sees the code in the laser, but he can't see any hallucinations, and he can describe it. He's in the CNN piece. Like the guy with the eye patch.
Mm-hmm.
They don't mention it, but he can't hallucinate, and he sees it super clearly. So that was
which means it's not a hallucination.
well, not so fast. Like if I do want to help the skeptics understand, I can't say that quite yet. There's quite a few other options here. Yeah.
I have done DMT, and I think people that are somewhat knowledgeable, that you set an intention before you take DMT of what you're trying to get from the experience sometimes. Have you asked DMT to explain to you what this is? Have you gotten any answers from the DMT world as to what you're experiencing?
Great question. It's the one thing they won't answer. They're like, figure
It's
it out.
the one thing they won't?
Well, if you guess correctly about something, they usually tell you, yeah. They say yes or no to whatever you thought. But
Right.
but that they were very clear. Oh no, that's for you to figure out. Like, what is this?
No hints, no nothing, just like
On purpose. I mean, they give you hints, I guess, but like it got me thus far. But yeah, it's very clearly that it's for us to understand, and it's not coincidental that we can see it.
Do you get a feeling that it is enjoying us having the experience? Do you get the feeling that whatever that is getting amusement out of us trying to figure it out?
It feels more like if they hatch the egg for you, you won't survive in whatever it is you're hatching into. So like they can't open the egg for you. You have to grow to the kind of being that understands. And then you just by knowing it, you will crack it, and by cracking it, you will open it. It's like
a parent watching their kid kind of learn.
You can't do the thing for them. Exactly. Yeah.
Really, really interesting.
That is so interesting because there's a guy, Jim Sparks comes to mind as an experience.
Jim Sparks, hell yeah.
Remember when he's talking about the alphabet they were teaching him?
Yes.
On board the craft. Yeah. And he said one of the things that they would teach us. Now, Jim Sparks was an abductee who had claimed to have conscious recall of over 300 individual abduction experiences over the course of years. And he described one time, he described being on the craft many times, of many different craft that he was brought on board. But one particular instance, he talks about being in a room and they're teaching him an alphabet. They want him to understand. They're teaching it to him like you would teach a little kid. And he's looking at these three-dimensional characters, their symbols. And like when you touch one, it's a complete awareness of a total concept. It's all a download happens and you get, it's like a multi-dimensional language.
I call it a handing of an understanding. Yeah, they just kind of like hand you an understanding. You just know it now.
Right. Yeah. He talked about that, and a bunch of other experiencers have said similar things over the years. I wonder if there's a connection.
No, I'm sure that this. I do think that it's kind of a. Like my assumption is that it's basically the computer language that the reality itself speaks.
Yeah.
And if you're going to simulate infinite worlds, ours is just one. Then in order, you can't be running another thing alongside of it because there's too many errors, prone to too many errors, right? So you can't have a compiler and a thing just kind of running behind all the realities and holding it in check.
Yeah.
You need to do is to somehow create a language that can instantiate the coding, the functions in the environment it's coding for. And I think that's essentially, we can think of it like, the Akashic records, or like a thing that both give rise to the next possible step and registers everything that happened so far. So it's in the books, so to speak. So it's like all together kind of happening at once. And that includes whatever our consciousness is doing. I've definitely seen instances where they showed me that there's it's waiting for what I call a choice to happen to execute the next step. It's waiting for what I call choice. Now, ultimately, of course, it's not my choice, but they're studying what is it that is executing through me as choices to make the next step happen. And it would stand to reason for me that what the code is basically that. It's the language with which it instantiates the functions in the environment. Which, by the way, UFO-wise, that thing that was in the carrot, whether it was real or not, the idea makes perfect sense to me. The idea was that the reason that they couldn't figure out for a long time how to make these things fly after they captured some is because they lacked the knowledge of that language. And only when you put the right symbols and the right arrangement, the right maps on top of the actual structure, then the structure all of a sudden knows, okay, now I respond to these fields this way. Now I can do anti-gravity. But before that, it couldn't because it was not instantiated in it. So
the hardware reacts to the symbols that are actually written on it.
Yep.
At a level, it's like a level of matter that we don't understand yet. It's some kind of like technology that's just
it's the language that universe speaks, and we just don't know the language, basically.
Yeah.
That's
Gosh.
Yeah.
That is unbelievable. Let me just go through a couple more. There were a few more audience questions I want to make sure we get. Let's see. This one is from C Nez 27. Has anyone tried a glow in the dark painted wall with a blue laser?
That is so cool. We tried all kinds of things. You mean like a black light laser kind of thing?
I think so. I think that's what they're saying. Yeah.
I would imagine it would be the same, but you know what? I have to be honest. I don't remember if it was just regular black light or if we ever tried it with some. I don't even know. They probably make them, but that's a great idea. The second we're gonna get into the when we have our center, all of these ideas we're gonna start like literally testing them every day, so we can go down the list basically.
Now, since you've been public, have you heard from any other scientists? Have you heard from anyone from any other world governments who have already been working on this before and are impressed that you have discovered it?
You know, my understanding from the space that this particular thing, nobody really knows this. I can't claim that I know this with absolute certainty, but it's close to it as possible. Mm-hmm. I've also had people from the government in certain circles that come to see it. And
what types of people, could I ask? Like what kind of person comes to see it?
I prefer not to say because I don't know if they want to be identified.
Not the names, just like what branch of government, what do they do for a living?
So I had people from Washington do various things, let's just call it that. And then I had people who are in law that kind of take care of a lot of stuff, both locally and also in the federal level. And and this will go against every grain of, people who believe that it's all just like kind of hidden from us. It's not to say that some things are not. Of course, there's many things that are hidden from us, some for good reasons, some for not good reasons. But at least the ones that I've interacted with, that definitely have pull, definitely have like connected and everything. They were very surprised, and they not professional actors, so the level of surprise that kind of hard to fake. And also there was this willingness to help. There was this, I don't know what, but like when time comes, you let me know whatever you need. Like, we can maybe help somehow. It was more like a wonder, a shock, and this is for real. And then, so it's just that I think this is where I'm getting a lot of my kind of intuition. The most people, whopping majority of people in the government, they're just people like you and me. They just show up in the morning, they have their coffee, they don't know anything. And then there's like, I agree that there's probably some organizations that are like shadowy organization doing all this, of course. But I mean, that was kind of a given, right? I don't get the impression they knew that. But I mean, I'm public, so now they know that. I mean, either they knew it before, and now they know for sure.
You know,
Now
they're doing their own experiments now for sure. If this wasn't on
Sure.
the radar before, they are balls deep
But
in this at the moment.
the other thing that I'm getting, which is maybe to you, Clint, why I'm a little bit more relaxed around what I think the outcome will be with this whole thing. My understanding is that it has a safety mechanism. So like you actually are incapable of receiving certain kinds of ideas unless you exhibit a certain kind of state of being. So if you're the kind of state of being that is kind of like, oh, how do I get my, my one-upmanship of everything else, and like just personal gain, it's a certain kind of vibration that blocks certain kinds of ideas from ever entering your mind. And only when you enter the mind of more like the telepathy tapes of like universal love, I care about the greater good of all, things like this, all of a sudden all of these beautiful harmonic ideas flow into your understanding, and you can then start working on those. So the way that I see it, and this is why I was so adamant about the point that I was trying to make, is that to the best of my understanding, it's only when we are, as humanity as a whole, will enter this space of just this harmony together, that all of a sudden there's going to be brilliant ideas galore. They would just be like, boom, they're just infinite beautiful ideas that solve all the problems. And you can go in faster than light, and you can do whatever all of a sudden it would just become apparent. It was like, oh, but we have to collectively enter that space, basically. We somehow have to make that happen.
Agreed, actually. Yeah.
That is
beautiful idea. It's a beautiful
That's a
idea.
great spot to end it.
Yeah.
On such a positive note. And is there anything else you guys want to add on before we wrap it up, guys?
I think we should do some final thoughts on Elon, if you don't mind.
I'm gonna circle back on Elon one more time. Let's just.
No, this has been fun. I'm grateful for these conversations with all of you guys. So, and Danny, I'm really fascinated by your work, and it's been fun to follow along and see what you're doing.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And I always appreciate the invite. And no, I love it. I love the, even when we fully disagree, it's like, it's fun. It's, again, like I said, like if we, it's on us. Like it's on us to have it, to hash it out, to come to some like harmonious states together, and then somehow make something beautiful out of it. Because otherwise, again, if we can't do it, who can, right? Like if we're on the same side, like if we can't do it, then how can anybody has a chance? Somebody asked if Terrence once seen the code. That would be something, wouldn't it?
Oh,
to show Terrence the code.
How great!
that would be amazing.
Yeah, but basically, if we can't communicate, we can't make progress. So this is key to everything.
Yeah.
What's the latest update on the documentary? Do you have any?
Yeah, we're at the end of it. We're basically almost done in terms of like the filming. Maybe there's one more thing, but Aaron is like hard at work at the editing. We already presented a version. It wasn't really a version. It was more like scene selection to some potential distributors. Yeah, man, it's the final stretch is always the hardest one. It's like 90% of the work. So there's something beautiful emerging. Soon we're going to be releasing the newest teaser. If people still want to donate to the post-production, they're more than welcome to do so, because it's a very expensive and lengthy process.
Do you need music?
Yeah, I was gonna. Do you need music? There's a guy right
We actually have a
a
composer, but hey, the synth line is something I really love. So
well, if you want to be this composers, keep the guy you got. If you want a good guy, get Xander.
Oh,
right here.
I'm sorry. You're right. No, I really love the synth line. Is this something that's available somewhere, by the way? Or just,
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. That track you heard is on Spotify.
You know, it's funny because whenever I run, what I listen to is usually kind of like 80s synth lines. Like it's my favorite. I was like, so that would be like, wow. It's,
Night Shift album on
Xander's your guy.
Spotify.
There's a
Let's
whole
go,
album.
baby. It's like,
there's a
go,
whole
baby.
album
I'm so
for it,
excited. Yeah, so that's, they can find, if people go to my channel, Dan Go Thoughts, DANG Thoughts, and they look for The Discovery, so the old trailer that everybody knows, there's the GoFundMe page there. That is, and any donation is received with gratitude. And we had a few actually of those donations, which is very beautiful. If anybody is in a better position and can't afford it, of course, never do it if you can't afford it. And you can afford to donate over $1,000, you will automatically be placed on a list of people who would see the movie as a world premiere with us with Q&A. Even though we will be talking to distributors, we will always maintain the right to have that world premiere, and we want to give that to people as well back. I'm very excited about the film. I actually didn't expect such incredible caliber of people to enter that space. When you guys are going to see the new teaser, what they did is just unbelievable. Like the way they just arranged that information is so beautiful and inspiring. And sometimes I forget I'm in the film. That's how good the editing is. I forget the film is about what I do because I'm just so immersed in the
like, who is this about? This is amazing. Meet this guy.
I know, who is this guy? I don't know this guy. No, actually, there's like that's why I really trust Aaron with all the. He's such a incredibly positive human, and so honest and so hard working that I submitted myself to him fully. Like, there's a lot of moments in the film where, we're all human, and like there's moments where like they're not the most comfortable for me because it's part of my personality that I'm still working on. And it is what it is, and that's okay. And but it's presented in a very beautiful and balanced way. Aaron is an absolute master of his craft. I'm just I'm in awe of how incredibly good he is at what he does, and everything you guys are going to see. Well, the majority, I don't know exactly, but the big struggle was, how do you communicate the breadth and the scale of that experience to people who've never done it before? Just CGI felt just kind of cheap, you know what I mean? And also it doesn't really actually deliver anything. And somehow Aaron pulled it off, man. Like, he created such visuals, and a lot of them were practical visuals that he made.
Really?
With like bubble cymatics and things, and he combined it with this like incredible music and pacing.
Cool.
That I was
That's
like,
so cool.
dude, that's like, he's like, does that work? I'm like, dude, that's wow, like that's crazy. So, yeah, I'm super stoked about it.
I can't wait to see it.
And I will do a shameless plug if you guys don't mind. We are doing, and after many requests, we finally I decided to do like an actual like retreat for people that they can experience not just the laser, but like a lot of. I brought literally top facilitators in the world. So if anybody's interested of even hearing about it, they can go to coreretreat.com, which is just CORretreat.com. And they can see the details there. It's going to be Costa Rica, the end of February. And it took me a long time to arrange this because I wanted to make sure that if people actually come for something like this, they actually leave with something extremely valuable. And I didn't feel like the laser observation was enough. So I built something that I think actually delivers.
CoreRetreat.com is the website.
COR Retreat, yeah, without the E.
COR Retreat, without the E. CoreRetreat.com. And that's in February in Costa Rica.
28th till March 7th. And I'll try and do them quarterly. Because when I started the company, the nonprofit, one of the things, well, obviously, we had some like donations, and we obviously need a bigger donation to actually do the bigger things. But I figured, well, in the end of the day, it's still this, and we need to be responsible. So why don't we just create things that people really enjoy? So we can also create a money stream for the business that can actually sustain the research and everything else. So that's when the idea to actually do it was born, in a place that we can actually do it.
So cool, man.
Yeah.
All right. We're going to wrap it there. Thanks to everybody who joined us at home. Xander, you've been so quiet. Is there anything you want to say before we wrap up?
Nothing to add.
Xander's steering clear. All right, guys, thanks for watching at home. Thanks for participating in our chat. Thank you for all the great questions for Danny. And thanks for just following and paying attention to what's going on in this very strange, weird space that we find ourselves in every Friday here on Night Shift. Thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next one. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Leave us a comment. Let us know what you thought. And tell me if I'm right, if I'm wrong, if you disagree, if you agree. I'd love to know. We'll see you on the next one. Until then, keep looking, everybody.